Chapter 162. What's going on today? Seeing that their companion had been killed, the rest of the cloud-soaring leopards stopped their attacks. The leader of the cloud-soaring leopards was extremely frustrated. It could feel that Zhonghu's strength was not much weaker than Ningyu's. You've passed the 4th level. The leader of the cloud-soaring leopards was no fool. It knew that Zhonghu had the ability to kill them, so it quickly said, "I'll open the stone door now and let you enter the 5th level." As it spoke, the leader of the cloud-soaring leopards took a step back and personally opened the stone door to the 5th level. Swoosh! Although the leader of the cloud-soaring leopards' actions confused Zhonghu, he was not an indecisive person. It was always a good thing that he could reduce his energy consumption here. Zhonghu did not stay here for long. His figure flashed and he entered the 5th level. Just as Zhonghu left, Yongyu flew in. You've also passed the 4th level. You can now enter the 5th level. Seeing Yongyu, the leader of the cloud-soaring leopards was stunned for a moment. Then, it opened the stone door to the 5th level. Moreover, the cloud-soaring leopards lined up on both sides, leaving a path for Yongyu. What's going on? The strange scene before him caused Yongyu to be dumbfounded. His brain even short-circuited for a moment. Could it be that the leader of the cloud-soaring leopards had taken the wrong medicine? Or had it lost its mind? The last time he was on the 4th level, Yongyu had only lasted 3 minutes after expending a tremendous amount of effort. Originally, he was prepared for a long battle. Who would have thought that such a scene would occur? After all, Yongyu had challenged the ivory tower once. He did not hesitate for too long and carefully walked forward. A minute later, Yongyu arrived at the entrance to the 5th level. With a leap, he entered the 5th level. Whoosh! After Yongyu entered the 5th level, the entire square was in an uproar. Everyone was discussing among themselves. How did 3 martial artists make it to the 5th level in less than 3 minutes? Among the martial artists who made it to the 5th level, one is Zhonghu, another is Yongyu. Who's the last one? I don't know. I've never heard of any genius challenging the ivory tower. A martial artist ranked 500th on the innate realm ranking will definitely not make it to the 5th level. Numerous discussions entered Zhong Zi's ears, causing his face to turn a little gloomy. He had investigated and found out that among the top 1,000 martial artists on the innate realm rankings, only 3 came to challenge the ivory tower. They were Zhonghu, ranked 100th on the innate realm rankings, and Yongyu, ranked 101st. As for the other martial artist, Xiaoju, ranked 500 on the innate realm battle board, there was naturally no need to talk about the first 2. Making it to the 5th level was also understandable. However, with Xiaoju's strength, it was practically impossible for him to make it to the 5th level. City Lord Yang, do you know who this cultivator is? Zhong Zi turned around and asked with a frown. How would I know? All the warriors in the top 5,000 of the innate realm list are allowed to enter the ivory tower. Maybe he is a hidden expert. Shrugging his shoulders, Yang Kuan said indifferently, it doesn't seem to have much to do with you as to how many levels others have reached, right? Why are you so nervous? Humph. Of course it doesn't matter. With a cold snort, Zhong Zi said in a deep voice, I'm just curious. The reason why Zhong Zi was a little nervous was because he was afraid that the martial artist who made it to the 5th floor was from the City Lord Manor and was a pawn of Yang Kuan. After all, as long as one could make it to the 5th floor of the ivory tower, he would be able to meet other martial artists. Zhong Zi was worried that Yongyu would team up with another martial artist to attack Zhonghu. Swoosh! At the same time, on the 5th floor of the ivory tower, Ningyu was shocked to see Zhonghu and Yongyu arrive. He had always thought that the ivory tower was a separate challenge. He did not expect to meet them again on the 5th floor. You are not bad. You dare to enter the 5th floor before me. Zhonghu's face was slightly solemn as he said in a deep voice, but sometimes, entering the 5th floor first doesn't mean that you are the strongest. Shrugging his shoulders, Ningyu said indifferently, I never said that I am the strongest. Then, Ningyu walked forward to a giant crystal ball and placed his palm on it. Traces of Yuan force flowed through his palm into the crystal ball. Swoosh! However, just as Ningyu's palm touched the crystal ball, Zhonghu's face turned cold. In a flash, He appeared next to Ningyu and lifted his leg to kick at Ningyu's arm. Seeing this, Ningyu quickly retracted his palm, grabbed Zhonghu's leg and flung him away. Smack. Landing firmly on the ground, Zhonghu's lips curled up. I told you, I am looking forward to fighting you in the ivory tower. Not interested. After the attack, Ningyu took another step forward and placed his palm on the crystal ball. However, Zhonghu obviously did not want to let him have his way. With quick steps, he dashed towards him once again. Swoosh. Dodging Zhonghu's attack, Ningyu said coldly, "What are you trying to do? This is the ivory tower, I have no time to fight you." "Hehe, that is not up to you." Smiling, Zhonghu said, "Do you know why we can meet on the 5th floor of the ivory tower? Because this is the real ivory fighting platform." As he finished speaking, Zhonghu forced a drop of blood to drip on the crystal ball. Then, he quickly made a hand sign and shouted, "Ivory fighting platform, activate." Crack, 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 crack. Following that, 4 cracking sounds were heard. Then, 4 beams of light shot up to the sky and surrounded Ningyu and the rest. What? This is the ivory fighting platform? Could the legend be true? Looking at the huge beams of light around him, Yang Yu's expression changed. He said coldly, "Zhonghu, how do you know how to activate the ivory fighting platform?" In the past, Yang Yu had heard from his father that the ivory fighting platform was most likely the real ivory fighting platform. However, the method to activate the ivory fighting platform had been lost for thousands of years. How did Zhonghu know how to activate the ivory fighting platform? How do I know how to activate the ivory fighting platform? Since you're all going to die, there's no harm in me telling you. As he spoke, Zhonghu's face gradually distorted. In the end, he looked like a completely different person. Moreover, Zhonghu's body emitted a powerful aura, indicating that he had reached the peak of the Xiantian realm. "It seems that I was right. You are really from the corpse sect," Ningyu said in a deep voice. Corpsean sect. Hearing Ningyu's words, Yang Yu's expression changed. He quickly moved closer to Ningyu. "Hehe, you are the first person to be so calm after knowing my identity." Zhonghu said with a faint smile, "In order to reward you, I will kill you first." I want to ask, do the people outside not know that we are fighting here?" Ningyu asked. "Only Xiantian realm warriors can enter the ivory tower. Don't think that someone will come in and save you." Zhonghu's lips curled into a sinister smile as he said, "Furthermore, even if we fight to the death here, no one outside will know." Chapter 163. "Since you've said so, I'm relieved," Ningyu said indifferently after Zhonghu finished speaking. "You're relieved? What are you relieved about?" Hearing Ningyu's words, Zhonghu was stunned for a moment, then he asked doubtfully, "You're relieved that I'm going to kill you?" "Zhonghu, don't be too arrogant. Ningyu is ranked 90th on the innate realm battle board. Today, if we join forces, it's hard to tell who will win." At this moment, Yang Yu took a step forward and stood beside Ningyu. "Ningyu, why does this name sound so familiar?" Hearing this, Zhonghu frowned. Then, as if remembering something, he said, "Oh right, you were the one who made the left guardian suffer in Danlong Valley, right?" As he spoke, Zhonghu looked around and said, "Where's that heaven-devouring hound? If it's not by your side, you're definitely not my opponent." Heaven-devouring hound. That puppy is a heaven-devouring hound. Beside him, Yang Yu was shocked. He had always thought that the Dark Emperor was a puppy. He didn't expect it to be a heaven-devouring hound. "Hehe, Zhonghu, I can deal with you alone." With a smile, Ningyu rose from the ground. Yuan Qi appeared on his palm and he slapped at Zhonghu. "I've killed the top 50 martial artists on the innate realm ranking list, not to mention you're only ranked 90th. Seeing Ningyu charging at him, Zhonghu's lips curled into a smile. Then, he clenched his right fist and clashed with Ningyu's palm. Bang! When the fist and palm collided, a muffled sound was heard. Then, Ningyu felt a piercing pain in his palm and quickly retreated. "Zhonghu, you're really strong." After the exchange, Ningyu and Zhonghu both stopped and did not continue to attack. Through a hasty exchange of blows, Ningyu had already roughly determined Zhonghu's true strength, the peak of the late stage of the true martial realm. In other words, with Zhonghu's current battle prowess, even if he were to face a martial artist at the peak of the late stage of the true martial realm, he would still be able to contend with and even kill him. You're not weak either. At this moment, the look of contempt on Zhonghu's face was completely swept away, replaced by a solemn expression. If not for the fact that I urgently need to replenish my energy and soul force, perhaps I would still play with you, but now. Speaking till here, Zhonghu paused for a moment, and then his whole body shook. At this moment, an aura not weaker than the peak of the late stage of the true martial realm completely burst out. I'm sorry, but you can only be a stepping stone for me. The instant his voice fell, all the essence in Zhonghu's body gathered on his wrist. Then, with an extremely berserk essence wind, his fist ruthlessly smashed towards Ningyu's neck. The powerful wind brought about by the punch even caused the entire 5th floor of the ivory tower to shake. Zhonghu, all the people of the corpse sect should die. Just when the essence in Ningyu's sea of consciousness was surging and he was about to resist, Yang Yu took a step forward, suddenly setting off a powerful fluctuation on the ground. Immediately afterward, Zhonghu took out a small jade bracelet from his bosom and instantly poured all the soul force in his body into the jade bracelet. Go! Accompanied by a low shout from Yang Yu's mouth, an overbearing tearing force suddenly burst out from the jade bracelet, and with an extremely astonishing speed, it blasted towards Zhonghu's chest. Damn it! Facing the huge tearing force from the jade bracelet, even with Zhonghu's powerful strength, at this moment, he could not help but be moved. After secretly cursing, he immediately turned his body, withdrew his fist, and collided with the overbearing tearing force from the jade bracelet. Humph! You actually dare to use your fist to resist the tearing force. Even a martial artist at the peak of the middle stage of the true martial realm would not dare to. What? Seeing Zhonghu being so arrogant, Yang Yu was a little excited, as if he could already see Zhonghu's miserable state. However, this excitement did not last for long, as it was shattered by Zhonghu's strong performance. Swoosh! After the fist blasted the tearing force, Zhonghu's body turned into a shadow, and in the blink of an eye, he appeared next to Yang Yu. Under Yang Yu's incredulous face, the iron-like fist hit his chest. The huge force caused Yang Yu to retreat to the edge of the 5th floor, until he spat out a mouthful of dark red blood. Only then did the force on his chest dissipate. Why are you so strong? Having no time to check on the injury on his chest, Yang Yu slightly opened his mouth and exclaimed, "The power of your attack just now is already close to the peak of the late stage of the true martial realm. Hehe, as I said, I have killed martial artists in the top 50 of the innate realm. How much difference do you think there is between you and the martial artists in the top 50 of the innate realm?" Zhonghu laughed. Top 50, top 50. Yang Yu was a little dumbfounded for a moment. Originally, he thought that the gap between him and Zhonghu would not be too big, and he even wanted to use his trump card to fight with Zhonghu. Now it seemed that the difference between naivety and reality was only a single thought. Poochie. Thinking of this, Yang Yu once again spat out a mouthful of blood, closed his eyes and fainted. Now that the fly has been dealt with, let me see your real strength. Ignoring Yang Yu, Zhonghu said in a deep voice, "I hope you will not disappoint me." Hua. Without saying a word, Ningyu's soul moved, and the phantom armor appeared. Desolate earth palm. Pushing the phantom armor's speed to the extreme, Ningyu formed a hand seal with his wrist, and a touch of soul force wrapped around his palm. With a low shout, a huge earth character appeared in the air and blasted towards Zhonghu. Soul attack skill. Zhonghu's eyes narrowed. He did not expect Ningyu to also know soul attack skill, and was stunned for a moment. It's impolite not to reciprocate. Today, I will show you what a real soul attack skill is. With an evil smile, Zhonghu waved his wrist quickly, and in the blink of an eye, a huge palm print appeared on top of his head. Then, the huge palm print suddenly shot out and collided with the earth character in the air. Catcher. At the moment when the two palm prints collided, a cracking sound could be heard. Hearing this cracking sound, Ningyu's expression changed slightly, because this cracking sound was the sound of the desolate earth palm being destroyed. Netherworld Samsara palm, 3rd style, Dark Fiend. At this crucial moment, Ningyu's palm grabbed the air, and instantly, a solid palm print appeared and collided with Zhonghu's palm print. Catcher. The same cracking sound could be heard, but this time, it was produced by Zhonghu's palm print. In other words, Zhonghu's soul attack palm print was at a disadvantage in the exchange with Dark Fiend, and was destroyed. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. After the successful attack, Ningyu's expression turned cold, and he continuously sent out 4 solid palm prints, and together with the first palm print, they surrounded Zhonghu from 5 directions. Ningyu, do you think this is all I can do? With a cold shout, Zhonghu took a few steps back, and then took out a white flying sword. Buzz! Yuan Qi from his knowledge sea flowed into the white flying sword, and instantly, the flying sword let out a buzzing sound. A middle-grade heaven-rank flying sword. Seeing the white flying sword in Zhonghu's hand, Ningyu's eyes narrowed, and a shocked expression appeared on his face. Chapter 164. Worthy of being a genius of the corpse sect. You actually have a mid-grade heaven-tier flying sword at the peak of the Xiantian realm. It seems that your position in the corpse sect is not low. Originally, Ningyu thought that Zhonghu was just an ordinary genius of the corpse sect. Now, it seemed that he was wrong, very wrong. Zhonghu's position in the corpse sect was definitely not low. It was even higher than the ordinary hall masters. I am from the ghost palace of the corpse sect. Zhonghu was obviously satisfied with Ningyu's reaction, but his hands did not stop. When the white flying sword's Yuan Qi was almost full, he stabbed out 5 shocking sword lights in a row. Kai 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 kai. The 5 shocking sword lights split into 5 different directions and collided with Ningyu's ghostly fiend palm. 5 consecutive kai kai sounds rang out on the 5th floor of the ivory tower. Without a doubt, Ningyu's ghostly fiend palm was completely destroyed by the 5 sword lights. The power of a mid-grade heaven-tier flying sword is indeed powerful. With a serious expression, Ningyu flicked his wrist and took out the Absolute Soul Sword. I didn't expect you to also have a heaven-grade magic treasure. Looking at the Absolute Soul Sword in Ningyu's hand, Zhonghu was slightly startled and immediately said, "But your heaven-grade magic treasure seems to be only a low-grade heaven-tier." A low-grade heaven-tier magic treasure is enough to deal with you. With a cold snort, Ningyu injected Yuan Qi from his sea of consciousness into the Absolute Soul Sword. Teish Kenpo. A low roar sounded and a terrifying sword wave attacked from the Absolute Soul Sword without any warning. It strangely appeared in front of Zhonghu and fiercely attacked his neck. Boneless sword light. Facing such a fierce sword wave, Zhonghu did not dare to be careless and quickly waved the white flying sword in his hand. The next moment, a faintly discernible sword light appeared and locked onto Teish Kenpo. The two collided on the 5th floor of the ivory tower. Boom! The collision of the 2 shocking sword lights caused even the 5th floor of the ivory tower to slightly shake. Crash! This slight tremor was noticed by some sharp-eyed people in the square. What's going on? The 5th floor of the ivory tower seems to have shaken. Are you seeing things? How can an ivory tower shake? You must be seeing things. That's impossible. I've cultivated a secret technique, so I'm very sensitive to even the slightest tremors. Could it be that someone is fighting inside the ivory tower? Whoosh! On the high platform of the square, Zhongzi looked at the slightly shaking 5th floor of the ivory tower and stood up from his chair. His eyes were fixed on the 5th floor of the ivory tower, and there was a look of astonishment in his eyes. City Lord Yang, have you ever encountered such a situation before? Taking a deep breath, Zhongzi slowly sat on the chair and said in a deep voice. Shaking his head, Yang Kuan said, "No. Ever since I became the City Lord of Ivory City, I have never encountered such a situation. Is it because the ivory tower has stood for too long and its time has come?" In fact, Yang Kuan's shock wasn't any weaker than Zhong Zi's. He had heard of the ivory battle platform and knew that the 5th floor of the ivory tower was the legendary ivory battle platform. However, a legend was a legend after all. For so many years, no one had ever opened the ivory battle platform. Even the imperial family had sent several Xiantian realm warriors, but none of them had opened the ivory battle platform and ended in failure. City Lord Yang, have you ever heard of the ivory battle platform? Staring at Yang Kuan's eyes, Zhongzi said, "It is said that the 5th floor of the ivory tower is the ivory battle platform." Once it is opened, someone will definitely die. Zhongzi, this is just a rumor. Don't believe it. Yang Kuan said with a serious face. Humph. Don't think that I don't know that among the 3 warriors on the 5th floor of the Ivory Tower, besides Zhong Hu and Yang Yu, the other one must be from the City Lord Mansion. Zhong Ziyi snorted coldly and said, if anything happens to Zhong Hu, your City Lord Mansion and I will be irreconcilable. Zhong Ziyi was very depressed, very depressed. Yesterday, he had discussed with Zhong Hu that they would wait for Yang Yu on the 5th floor of the Ivory Tower and then kill him. He had studied it many times. Only those who died on the 5th floor of the Ivory Tower were truly dead, not faked death. Although it was a little strange, Zhong Ziyi attributed it to the fact that the 5th floor of the Ivory Tower was the real ivory battle platform. He did not find it strange. But now, the 5th floor of the Ivory Tower was shaking, which meant that the legendary ivory battle platform was likely to be opened. With Zhong Hu's strength, he did not need to open the ivory battle platform to kill Yang Yu. Now, it seemed that there was a problem with the third person, a big problem. Zhongzi, I will also say this. If Yu is killed, I will not let you off. Yang Kuan was also a hot-tempered person. Besides, he was also puzzled about this matter. Why did Zhong Ziyi say that it was related to him? Let's wait and see. Clenching his fists, Zhong Ziyi suppressed his urge to attack and said coldly. Zhong Ziyi knew that he and Yang Kuan were evenly matched. If they fought here, no one would gain the upper hand. Instead, they would be laughed at by others. Moreover, although he was worried, he always thought that Zhong Hu could kill Yang Yu, and even the expert invited by Yang Kuan. Swish. At the same time, at the gate of Ivory City, a martial artist in white was standing there. Looking at the crystal ball in his hand, the martial artist in white murmured, it seems that their method of hiding their aura is superb. Even the aura-tracking magic treasure could not detect their aura. This is the 10th city. I hope I will not be disappointed. I can find them here. After saying that, the martial artist in white flashed and disappeared mysteriously. There seems to be someone. Did you notice? After the martial artist in white disappeared, a martial artist at the early stage of Inborn Realm frowned and asked. Someone. Are you blind? Why didn't I see him? A short martial artist next to the martial artist said. Am I blind? It doesn't make sense. The martial artist at the early stage of Inborn Realm scratched his head and said. Let's go, or we will miss the Ivory Tower. The short martial artist urged. Go, go, go. Buzz. After the 2 martial artists disappeared, the martial artist in white appeared again. Ivory Tower. The white-clothed martial artist muttered softly. Immediately, his body flashed and he rushed into Ivory City in an instant. He charged toward the Ivory Tower. Boom. On the 5th floor of the Ivory Tower, Ningyu and Zhong Hu separated as soon as they touched each other. Both of them were floating in the air. Holding the white flying sword in his hand, Zhong Hu's primordial chi burst out of his body, revealing a powerful aura. Opposite him, Ningyu was wearing the phantom armor and holding the soul-breaking sword. On the blade of the sword, traces of purple flames were constantly jumping. You really surprised me. Not only do you have a lower-grade heaven stage flying sword, but you even have an earth stage magic treasure that can burst out the speed of the peak of the middle stage of real martial realm. Zhong Hu raised the corner of his mouth and said gloomily, moreover, you have the luck to control a kind of flame, the wind thunder fire. Chapter 165. The people of the corpse sect are indeed eccentric. Every one of them wants to refine others into corpse puppets. Ningyu's face was expressionless as he said, since you want to see the corpse so much, fine, I'll fulfill your wish. With that, Ningyu's soul force moved and a dark golden corpse that was taller than a person flew out from the storage ring. Dark gold spirit corpse. The moment he saw the corpse, Zhong Hu's expression changed greatly and he couldn't help but take a few steps back. As a peerless genius of the corpse sect's Ghost Talent Hall, Zhong Hu knew about the dark gold spirit corpse and its strength. Even the weakest dark gold spirit corpse had the battle strength of the late stage of the true martial realm. If Zhong Hu's guess was correct, the dark gold spirit corpse in front of him was at least at the peak of the true martial realm. Ningyu, Why do you have the dark gold spirit corpse of the corpse sect? Are you also a member of the corpse sect? Jong-Hu frowned and said in a deep voice. In the corpse sect, only those with high status were qualified to have the dark gold spirit corpse. As for why Ning-Yu had the dark gold spirit corpse, Jong-Hu was very puzzled. Noisy. With a low roar, Ning-Yu gave the dark gold spirit corpse an order to kill Jong-Hu. Ming. Bai. After receiving Ning-Yu's order, the dark gold spirit corpse let out a powerful voice. It immediately leaped high and charged towards Jong-Hu. Not good. A semi-intelligent dark gold spirit corpse. Its strength is at least at the half-step origin core realm. Seeing the dark gold spirit corpse speak human language, Jong-Hu's face turned completely gloomy. If the dark gold spirit corpse in front of him could only display the battle strength of the peak of the true martial realm, then there was nothing for him to be afraid of. After all, the dark gold spirit corpse was only a corpse and was slightly weaker than a true peak true martial realm martial artist. Moreover, he still had a trump card that he hadn't used yet. He believed that once he used it, defeating the dark gold spirit corpse would only be a matter of time. However, the strength of a semi-intelligent dark gold spirit corpse was comparable to a half-step origin core realm martial artist. Even though he was very confident that he was a genius of the Ghost Talent Hall, facing a half-step origin core realm martial artist, he definitely wouldn't have the chance to escape. Run. At this moment, there was only one thought in Jong-Hu's mind, and that was to escape. He wasn't an indecisive person. The instant the dark gold spirit corpse charged out, his figure flashed as he charged towards the 4th floor of the ivory tower. Bang! However, he had clearly forgotten that he was currently on the ivory battle platform. The surrounding Yuan Qi light waves had forcefully bounced him back. Once the ivory battle platform opened, there would definitely be death. Hehe, Jong-Hu, you are digging your own grave. The corners of his mouth curled up. This time, it was Ning-Yu who laughed. Ning-Yu, even if I die, I'll drag you down with me. Jong-Hu's expression became extremely gloomy. He stomped on the ground and his body turned into an afterimage as he charged straight at Yang Yu. At this moment, Jong-Hu made up his mind to capture Yang Yu and threaten Ning-Yu. However, Jong-Hu had clearly underestimated the dark gold spirit corpse's reaction speed. Just as he moved, the dark gold spirit corpse had already appeared in front of him in a flash as its huge palm fiercely smashed towards his head. The dark gold spirit corpse's palm contained a powerful energy fluctuation. Not to mention Jong-Hu, even a martial artist at the peak of the true martial realm would be heavily injured if they were hit by it. Not good. Jong-Hu's pupils rapidly shrank. He could no longer care about attacking Yang Yu as he hastily retreated. Bang! Although Jong-Hu had retreated at the first moment, a cold light suddenly shot out from the dark gold spirit corpse's eyes and accurately struck Jong-Hu's chest. The powerful energy contained in the cold light had nearly pierced through Jong-Hu's chest. Poochie. A fishy sweetness came from his throat, causing Jong-Hu to spit out a mouthful of blood as his face turned deathly pale. Netherworld Samsara Palm, 4th Palm, Dark Tyrant. At this moment, Ning-Yu's eyes emitted a bright light as he rose from the ground and arrived before Jong-Hu in an instant. Gathering his soul power on his wrist, he ruthlessly chopped towards Jong-Hu's head. Looking at the palm that was continuously expanding in his eyes, Jong-Hu revealed an expression of despair. He only cared about blocking the dark gold spirit corpse's next attack, but he did not expect Ning-Yu to already be in front of him. Furthermore, Ning-Yu had executed an even more powerful soul attack. Soul power, get out of here. Although he was already in a hopeless situation, Jong-Hu did not plan to give up. He released all his soul power and formed a soul net, hoping that it could block Ning-Yu's netherworld samsara palm. Poochie. Dreams were plentiful, but reality was harsh. The power of the netherworld samsara palm's 4th palm, Dark Tyrant, was not something that Jong-Hu's grade 4 soul power could block. The instant his soul power came into contact with the palm, it was blasted apart. The trembling that came from the depths of Jong-Hu's soul caused despair to appear in his eyes. Swoosh. Ning-Yu held the soul-breaking sword in his hand and arrived in front of Jong-Hu in the blink of an eye. He placed the sword on the latter's neck. Looking at the soul-breaking sword on his neck, Jong-Hu quickly begged, "Ning-Yu, let me go." As long as you let me go, I can be your slave and listen to your orders for the rest of my life. You want to be my slave now? It's too late. After saying that, Ningyu withdrew his sword and directly chopped Zhonghu's neck. At this moment, the exceptional genius of the corpse sect's ghost talent hall, Zhonghu, died a miserable death. Ding! After Zhonghu died, his body fell backward. The black iron ball that he was tightly holding also fell to the ground. Ningyu picked up the black iron ball on the ground. His eyes slightly narrowed as he said in a deep voice, "This should be the corpse yin ball of the corpse sect. Luckily, I didn't hesitate and killed Zhonghu with one strike. Otherwise, if he had detonated the corpse yin ball, the consequences would have been unimaginable." In his previous life, Ningyu had some understanding of the corpse yin ball of the corpse sect. The power of the corpse yin ball was enormous. Once it silently detonated, even a late-stage true martial realm martial artist would die on the spot. Now I'm lucky. After storing the corpse yin ball and the dark gold spirit corpse into his storage ring, Ningyu started searching Zhonghu's body. A moment later, a black token appeared in his hand. On the lower left side of the token, there was a ghost character. Next to the ghost character was a small 12 character. Could it be that Zhonghu is ranked 12th in the corpse sect's ghost talent hall? The competition in the ghost talent hall was also very fierce. Every year, there would be a ranking competition. During the ranking competition, killing was allowed. It might be useful if I keep it. He casually threw the black token into his storage ring and held Zhonghu's boneless sword in his hand. Although it is a mid-grade heaven rank flying sword, it is still more convenient for me to use the soul-breaking sword. After waving the boneless sword a few times, Ningyu shrugged and threw it into his storage ring. Comparatively speaking, he still preferred to use the soul-breaking sword. After all, the soul-breaking sword was a devouring flying sword while the boneless sword was only an ordinary mid-grade heaven rank flying sword. Rumble. Just at this moment, a rumbling sound was heard and the surrounding origin chi instantly dissipated. Chapter 166. When the ivory battle platform opens, someone will definitely die. Feeling the disappearance of the ivory battle platform, Ningyu murmured, "Now that Zhonghu is dead, it's no wonder the ivory battle platform disappeared. Zhonghu's body is here. If Yang Yu sees it, it will be troublesome." Seeing Zhonghu's body on the ground, Ningyu was worried for a while. Yang Yu would definitely wake up later. Once he saw that he had killed Zhonghu, he would most likely tell his father, Yang Kuan. Zhonghu was a member of the corpse sect. If this matter reached the ears of the experts of the corpse sect, the consequences would be unimaginable. However, it was not realistic to kill Yang Yu. After all, this was Ivory City. Killing Zhonghu was already troublesome enough. If he killed Yang Yu, he could imagine that he would not be able to leave Ivory City. Moreover, Yang Yu had no grievances with him, so there was no need for him to kill Yang Yu. Right. Suddenly, Ningyu's face lit up. He quickly walked to Yang Yu's side and searched his body. A moment later, a small dagger appeared in Ningyu's hand. A middle-grade earth dagger. Looking at the dagger in his hand, Ningyu was slightly stunned. He immediately said, "Forget it, just accept it. Being killed by a middle-grade earth dagger is not an injustice to you." He took the dagger and made a cut on Zhonghu's body. Then, Ningyu put the dagger in Yang Yu's hand and carried him to Zhonghu's side. After doing all this, Ningyu pretended to fall on the ground. His breath was a little weak. Ouch. About a quarter of an hour later, Yang Yu opened his eyes. What's going on? Feeling the pain coming from his head, Yang Yu raised his wrist and wanted to rub his head. However, just as he raised his hand, he saw the dagger in his hand. "When did I put this dagger?" "No. Zhonghu." Yang Yu slightly frowned. Just as he was about to speak, he saw Zhonghu lying in front of him. Without much time to think, he jumped up from the ground and looked at Zhonghu with vigilance. He shouted, "Zhonghu, I didn't expect you to be from the Yin Corpse sect. Today, either you die or I die." As soon as he finished speaking, Yang Yu tensed up and stared at Zhonghu. However, he soon realized that something was wrong with Zhonghu. Zhonghu was no longer breathing, and he could even vaguely see traces of blood on his neck. Zhonghu was killed. Yang Yu looked at Jong-hu and then at the dagger in his hand. He was confused. Right, Ning Yu. It must be Ning Yu who killed him. Thinking of this, Yang Yu quickly looked for Ning Yu. However, when he saw that Ning Yu was lying on the other side, his heart was slightly shaken. Could it be that he was really the one who killed Jong-hu? But this was too nonsensical. F***ck. At this moment, Ning Yu rubbed his head and opened his eyes. Looking at the dagger in Yang Yu's hand and the bloodstain on Jong-hu's neck, Ning Yu couldn't help but curse. He said in disbelief, "Brother Yang, you killed Jong-hu from the Yin Corpse sect? Younger brother Ning, do you know what's going on?" Yang Yu raised the dagger in his hand and asked, "I felt that I was hit by Jong-hu's attack. Why was Jong-hu already dead when I woke up?" "You ask me? Who am I supposed to ask?" Ning Yu rolled his eyes at Yang Yu and said, "After you fainted, I was also defeated by Jong-hu in one move. After that, I don't know. Looking at the dagger in your hand and the bloodstain on Jong-hu's neck, isn't it obvious that you killed Jong-hu?" Yang Yu murmured, "Jong-hu was killed by me, but I don't know." "Aya, don't worry about it. Anyway, Jong-hu is from the Yin Corpse sect. It doesn't matter if you killed him." Waving his hand, Ning Yu said, "But the Jong family doesn't know that Jong-hu is from the Yin Corpse sect, so this matter is a bit troublesome. Yes, the Jong family will definitely seize this matter and launch an attack on the City Lord's mansion." At this time, Yang Yu no longer cared about who killed Jong-hu. Instead, he was worried about the safety of the City Lord's mansion. After all, the Jong family in Ivory City was a branch of the Jong family in the capital. Once they launched an attack on the City Lord's mansion, the Jong family would definitely not sit idly by. Moreover, with the relationship between the Jong family and the Imperial family would most likely not come forward to help the City Lord's mansion. Instead, they would let the City Lord's mansion be annexed by the Jong family. Ning Yu said, "There is only one way." Yang Yu hurriedly asked, "What way?" With a cold expression, Ning Yu said in a deep voice, "Since you have already killed Jong-hu, you might as well go all the way and destroy his body." "You mean, destroy the body and destroy the evidence?" Yang Yu said in surprise. "That's right." Nodding his head, Ning Yu said, "At this time, you must show the boldness of the young City Lord. Whether you want to leave a handle for the Jong family and watch them annex the City Lord's mansion, or whether you want to save the City Lord's mansion from danger, it's all up to you." Hearing Ning Yu's words, Yang Yu fell into deep thought. A moment later, Yang Yu took out a bag of white powder, clenched his teeth, and sprinkled it on Jong-hu's body. Kai kai. When the white powder came into contact with Jong-hu's body, it made a sizzling sound. Then, in the blink of an eye, Jong-hu's body turned into nothingness. Corpse dissolving powder. Ning Yu's eyes narrowed. He knew that the white powder Yang Yu took out was a corpse-dissolving powder made from several kinds of medicinal herbs. It could turn a corpse into powder in a short period of time. After Jong-hu's body disappeared, Ning Yu came to the crystal ball and placed his palm on it. "Okay, it has been delayed for so long. It's time to pass this stage." Hiss. Just as Ning Yu's palm touched the crystal ball, traces of Yuan Qi flowed into the crystal ball through his palm. Not long after, a shining star lit up on the crystal ball. After a while, the second star lit up. Then, the third, the fourth. It was only when the fifth star lit up that Ning Yu retracted his palm. Creak. The moment Ning Yu retracted his palm, the stone door leading to the 6th floor suddenly opened. "Brother Yang, since the stone door is open, why don't we enter the 6th floor together?" Ning Yu asked when he saw the stone door open. Shaking his head, Yang Yu said, "Only those who light up 5 stars can enter the 6th floor. If a martial artist who hasn't lit up a star tries to force his way into the 6th layer, then a cold light will attack him and blast him out. Brother Yang, with your strength, it is certain that you will light up 5 stars." Ning Yu was not in a hurry to enter the 6th floor. Instead, he said, "I will wait for Brother Yang. When the time comes, we will enter the 6th floor together. At least we can look after each other." Swoosh. Yang Yu did not say anything. His figure flashed and he came to the side of the crystal ball. Taking a deep breath, he placed his palm on the crystal ball. Buzz. As traces of essence entered the crystal ball, very soon, a star lit up. After a while, the second star lit up. 10 minutes later, the third star lit up. Half an hour later, the fourth star lit up. Chapter 167. What's going on? Could it be that Yang Yu doesn't have enough essence in his sea of consciousness? From Ningyu's point of view, although Yang Yu was only in the late stage of the Xiantian realm, the essence in his body was vigorous enough to light up 5 stars. Why was it so strenuous? Just now, when he lit up 5 stars, he didn't consume much essence. He didn't even use up all the essence in one cyclone. Should I help him? Ningyu furrowed his brows and an idea popped up in his mind. He wanted to help Yang Yu. Let's wait and see. If he really can't light up the 5th star, I'll help him. Temporarily suppressing the urge to help Yang Yu, Ningyu decided to wait and see before deciding whether to help Yang Yu or not. Compared to Ningyu, Yang Yu was much more shocked. It could be said that he was extremely shocked. Damn it! Why does it need so much essence this time? Cursing in his heart, Yang Yu crazily poured the essence in his body into the crystal ball. But unfortunately, the 5th star was still not lit up. In fact, Yang Yu was also very helpless. Last time, he failed here, so this time he was very well prepared. The essence in his sea of consciousness was extremely huge, enough to catch up with a true martial realm martial artist. However, he didn't know why, when he poured all the essence in his body into the crystal ball, he only lit up 4 stars. The 5th star still didn't show any signs of lighting up. Just now, the essence that Ningyu poured into the crystal ball hasn't even reached the early stage of the true martial realm. Why can he light up 5 stars, but I can't? Yang Yu was very depressed. Originally, he was full of confidence to break through to the 6th floor, and even wanted to try the 7th floor. But now, it seemed that everything was in vain. Is it because of the opening of the ivory battle platform? Seeing Yang Yu struggling so much, Ningyu was finally moved, because he found that the essence that Yang Yu poured into the crystal ball was no less than the amount he poured into it. But on second thought, Ningyu felt that the possibility was relatively small. After all, he didn't pour in much essence. Poochie. Suddenly, Yang Yu's complexion changed. His palm suddenly bounced off the crystal ball, and a sweet smell came from his throat. A mouthful of red blood sprayed onto the crystal ball. Kai. The moment the bright red blood landed on the crystal ball, a sizzling sound was heard. Immediately after, the 4 stars that had just been lit were all extinguished. Creak. At the same time, the stone door leading to the 6th floor slowly closed up. F***CK. The change in the stone door caused Ningyu's expression to change. He could not help but curse. His eyes widened and his mouth opened so slightly that an egg could be stuffed inside. It's over this time. The stone door to the 6th floor is closed. Yang Yu sat on the ground and gasped for breath. He murmured, "Brother Ning, I'm sorry that I've implicated you." "Brother Yang, do you know what's going on?" Ningyu asked with a frown. Taking a deep breath, Yang Yu said, "If I'm not wrong, it should be time. Every time the stone door opens, there is a time limit. If you don't enter within the time limit, then the stone door will close. If you want to enter, you need to light up another 5 stars. If that's the case, then I'll go and light them up again." Taking a step forward, Ningyu placed his palm on the crystal ball again. Then, threads of yuan qi flowed into the crystal ball through his palm. Buzz. Not long after, the 1st star was lit up. After another 15 minutes, the 2nd star was also lit up. Although the stars were lit up one by one, the pressure on Ningyu increased. This time, the amount of yuan qi needed to light up 2 stars was more than 3 times that of the previous time. In other words, if he were to light up all 5 stars, he would need to use up at least 3 cyclones worth of yuan qi. When he was fighting the cloud leopard on the 4th floor, Ningyu had used up all the yuan qi in 2 cyclones. When he was fighting Zhonghu on the 5th floor, he had used up another cyclone's worth of yuan qi. At this moment, the yuan qi in Ningyu's sea of consciousness was only enough for 3 cyclones. Let's do it. I don't believe that I can't light up all 5 stars today. Although there were only 3 cyclones worth of yuan qi left, Ningyu still wanted to give it a try. Then, the yuan qi in the cyclones gushed out crazily and drilled into the crystal ball. Whoosh! The violent yuan qi danced on Ningyu's palm, and the air seemed to be affected as it spread out in all directions. The intensity of this yuan qi, feeling the strong fluctuation of yuan qi around Ningyu, Yang Yu was extremely shocked. His eyes revealed an aghast expression, and he even stuttered, "I'm afraid. He has already reached the middle stage of the real martial realm?" When the yuan qi in the three cyclones gathered together, it was comparable to the yuan qi in the sea of consciousness of a martial artist in the middle stage of the real martial realm. It seems that father was right. With Ningyu's true strength, he should be able to enter the top 50 of the innate combat list. Seeing Ningyu like this, Yang Yu's suspicions grew. It seems that there is indeed something fishy about Zhonghu's death. If I'm not wrong, Zhonghu should have been killed by Ningyu. Although Yang Yu thought so, he did not dare to say it in front of Ningyu, because he was afraid that Ningyu would kill him. After all, Zhonghu was playing the role of the Zhong family's young master. If Zhong Ziyi knew that Ningyu had killed Zhonghu, it would be a disaster for Ningyu. Ka. Just as Yang Yu's thoughts were running wild, a ka sound was heard. Then, the fifth star on the crystal ball was completely lit up at this moment. Whoosh! What shocked Yang Yu even more was that the sixth star was actually lit up. Creak, creak. The next moment, a rhythmic sound came from the stone door leading to the sixth floor, and it opened bit by bit. Brother Yang, since there is a problem with the crystal ball, let's enter the sixth floor together. Focusing his eyes, Ningyu's phantom armor appeared around his body, and he rose from the ground. Before Yang Yu could react, he grabbed his shoulder and flew to the sixth floor. Rumble. As soon as Ningyu and Yang Yu entered the sixth floor, the stone door closed with a loud bang. Phew. On the sixth floor of the ivory tower, Ningyu turned around to look at the stone door that had closed instantly. He let out a long sigh of relief, thinking that it was a close call. If not for the phantom armor's super speed, the heavy stone door would have pressed down on him and Yang Yu. Whoosh! When Ningyu and Yang Yu stepped into the sixth floor of the ivory tower, there was an uproar in the square. Many martial artists looked at the sixth floor of the ivory tower in shock, and their eyes were filled with disbelief. Because just now, the sixth floor of the ivory tower had lit up twice in a row. Are my eyes playing tricks on me? In an instant, two martial artists entered the sixth floor. You're not seeing things. The sixth floor of the ivory tower did light up twice, and it was lit up in a short period of time. Could it be that Zhonghu and Yang Yu, the two geniuses, entered the sixth floor together? Chapter 168. Bam! On the high platform, Zhong Ziyi slammed his palm on the chair he was sitting on, his face extremely gloomy. Two martial artists had already entered the sixth floor, which was completely out of his expectations. Based on his guess, there was only one martial artist who had entered the sixth floor, and that was Zhonghu. Yang Yu did not even have the slightest chance of entering the sixth floor, because Zhonghu would have killed Yang Yu on the fifth floor of the ivory tower. Now that two martial artists had entered the sixth floor, he had a bad feeling about this. Wait a little longer, there should be someone else who can enter the sixth floor. Clenching his fists, Zhong Ziyi stared at the ivory tower, not moving an inch. The martial artists who entered the sixth floor, could it be Zhonghu and Ningyu? Beside Zhong Ziyi, Yang Kuan frowned and mumbled, "I know Yuer's strength, he is too weak compared to Zhonghu and Ningyu. If there are two martial artists who entered the sixth floor, it must be Zhonghu and Ningyu. With Ningyu around, Zhonghu would not dare to do anything to Yuer, at least Yuer's safety is guaranteed." Taking a deep breath, Yang Kuan said in a low voice, "If Yuer is safe, I will definitely thank Ningyu when he comes out." Yang Kuan knew that Ningyu's strength was enough to enter the top 50 of the innate realm ranking. If Zhonghu wanted to kill Yang Yu with Ningyu around, it would be extremely difficult. Time flew, and in the blink of an eye, an hour had passed. Hua! Zhong Ziyi suddenly stood up from his chair, his eyes revealing a frightening look. Releasing the aura of a peak middle stage true martial realm martial artist, he said to Yang Kuan fiercely, "Is this your doing? Why are there only two people who entered the sixth floor?" Me. Yang Kuan snorted and released his aura as well, and said coldly, Zhongzi, you old fool, I did not enter the ivory tower, how would I know what happened inside? Besides, isn't it good that 2 martial artists entered the 6th floor? Zhonghu and you pooh. Hearing Yang Kuan's words, Zhongzi spat out a mouthful of saliva and said in a deep voice, don't think that I don't know. Among the 3 martial artists on the 5th floor of the ivory tower, aside from Hu and Zhong Yu, the other one was definitely arranged by you. Speak, what is that martial artist's rank on the innate ranked list? You are being unreasonable. I have no idea what you are talking about. With a cold expression, Yang Kuan reprimanded, causing trouble here. What a disgrace. Yang Kuan, it seems like the matter between us will come to an end today. Ignoring Yang Kuan's scolding, Zhongzi slowly sat on the chair, placed his hands behind his back, and silently formed a hand seal. Shio. Zhongzi's hand seal fell, and a martial artist behind him quietly left the square, heading towards the Zhong family. Yang Kuan narrowed his eyes and whispered a few words to an early-stage true martial realm martial artist beside him. He then sat on a chair and closed his eyes to rest. Although the two of them did not start a conflict, some sharp-eyed martial artists could tell that there would be a bloodbath in Ivory City soon. The conflict on the square was just a small interlude. Meanwhile, on the 6th floor of the ivory tower, looking at the round altar in front of him, Ningyu frowned in confusion. It had been an hour since he and Yang Yu entered the 6th floor of the ivory tower, but they still had not figured out how to pass this floor. On the 4th floor of the ivory tower, Ningyu had forced out the information that this floor was a test of one's talent. As long as one's talent met the requirements, one would be able to enter the 7th floor. However, Ningyu had no idea how to test his talent. There was not even a hint. Then, Ningyu shifted his gaze to Yang Yu. Don't look at me. Yang Yu shrugged and said, I have never been to the 6th floor, so I don't know what to do on this floor. Yang Yu had only made it to the 5th floor last time, so he knew nothing about the test on the 6th floor. We can't keep waiting here, can we? Ningyu moved his feet and walked toward the altar. Rumble. However, as soon as Ningyu moved, a rumbling sound came from the altar. Then, a white shadow flew out of the altar and floated in the air. Swoosh. As soon as the white shadow appeared, Ningyu's eyes narrowed and he quickly stepped back. With a grave expression, Ningyu said in a deep voice, Why is it you again? The white shadow on the altar was none other than the white shadow that Ningyu had seen on the 3rd floor of the ivory tower. Hehe, little boy, we meet again. With a smile, the white shadow said, I didn't expect you to come to the 6th floor so quickly. I'm really surprised. I'll cut to the chase. This floor is very simple. As long as your talent meets the requirements, you can enter the 7th floor. As the white shadow spoke, he shook his wrist and 2 pieces of jade flew out of the altar. Swoosh, swoosh. With a casual toss, the pieces of jade flew toward Ningyu and Yang Yu respectively. Each of you can force a drop of your blood essence onto the jade. As long as you can break it, you will pass the test. The white shadow saw the confusion in Ningyu and Yang Yu's eyes and explained, this jade is carved from a 10,000-year-old cold jade. A small formation was carved in it with a strong soul power. As long as the talent in your blood is high enough, the small formation will be broken. By then, the jade will naturally break and you will be able to enter the 7th floor. Isn't this a test of talent? Why is it a test of blood talent? Ningyu asked with a frown. Talent is divided into acquired talent and innate talent. The talent in your blood is innate talent. The white shadow smiled and said, only when your innate talent meets the requirements of the test can you enter the 7th floor. If you want to test for acquired talent, find a way to get to the 10th floor. As soon as he finished speaking, the white shadow's figure flashed and disappeared into the altar. After the white shadow disappeared, Yang Yu looked at the jade in his hand and said to Ningyu, should I drip my blood essence on it? Actually, Yang Yu was a little worried. After all, dripping his blood essence on an unknown jade might cause unnecessary trouble. Drip. With a cold expression, Ningyu shouted in a deep voice, since we've come to the ivory tower, we shouldn't suspect anything. I can feel that the white shadow is very powerful. If he wants to kill us, it'll be as easy as blowing off dust. In the next moment, Ningyu forced a drop of blood essence and dripped it onto the jade. Buzz buzz. As soon as Ningyu's blood essence dripped onto the jade let out a buzzing sound. Then, with a crack, it broke. Seeing Ningyu's action, Yang also dripped a drop of blood essence on the jade. However, when his blood essence dripped onto the jade, there was no reaction from the jade. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. Chapter 169. Gone. Where did Ningyu go? The sudden change caused Yang to turn pale with fright. The shock in his eyes could be seen clearly, and he even revealed a terrified expression. He had never encountered such a strange thing before. The 4 beams of light had taken Ningyu away. Could it be? Ningyu has entered the 7th level. Suddenly, Yang eyes widened and his face was filled with disbelief. However, on second thought, Ningyu's blood essence had caused the jade block to shatter. In other words, Ningyu's innate talent was very high and had met the requirements of the assessment. The White Shadow had said that as long as one's talent reached the requirements of the assessment, one could enter the 7th level. Now it seemed that Ningyu must have entered the 7th level. Yang was a little depressed at the thought. After all, he and Ningyu had entered the 6th level together. Now that Ningyu had successfully entered the 7th level, he had to stop here. Forget it. Since I can't enter the 7th level, I'll just cultivate here. The concentration of primordial chi in the ivory tower was several levels higher than in the outside world. Cultivating here would yield twice the results with half the effort. Since the ivory tower did not send Yang out, he did not think too much about it. Instead, he sat down cross-legged and began cultivating. Whoosh! The light from the 7th level of the ivory tower caused a huge commotion in the square. Many martial artists looked at the ivory tower in shock. The shock on their faces did not fade away for a long time. Someone actually made it to the 7th level of the ivory tower. This is unbelievable. Yeah, to be able to make it to the 7th level, he must be a peerless genius. In my opinion, the one who made it to the 7th level must be Zhonghu. After all, his strength is obvious to all. Now I'm looking forward to seeing if he can make it to the 8th level. The 8th level? As long as he can make it to the 8th level, he can enter the Sacred Institute of Danwu College unconditionally. Let's wait and see. At the edge of the square, a man in white frowned as he looked at the ivory tower with a puzzled expression. The aura tracking treasure sensed a familiar aura here. Why did it disappear? Ever since he entered Ivory City, the white-robed man's aura-tracking magic treasure had sensed a faint aura. Following this faint aura, he found this square. Moreover, according to the guidance of the aura-tracking magic treasure, the weak aura completely disappeared at the entrance of the ivory tower. Looks like the person I'm looking for has entered the ivory tower. The corner of the man in white's lips curled up. He decided to wait here quietly. After all, with his cultivation level, there was no way he could enter the ivory tower. Whoosh! Suddenly, the white-robed man's expression changed and he could not help but look into the distance. 2 half-step primal core realm martial artists. From the air, the white-clothed man sensed 2 slightly powerful auras undulations. These auras undulations indicated that their owners were half-step Yuan Dan stage practitioners. I didn't think that there would be 2 half-step origin core realm martial artists here. Ivory City is indeed one of the top cities in the Great Xia Kingdom. Taking a deep breath, the man in white ignored the situation around him. Instead, he locked his aura on the exit of the ivory tower, hoping to find the person he was looking for. This is the 7th floor of the ivory tower. In a slightly dark room, Ningyu looked left and right and muttered, "Why do I feel like I am in a sealed secret room? Keek, it has been a long time since someone came to the 7th floor of the ivory tower." Just as Ningyu was feeling suspicious, a young lady wearing a light blue outfit appeared in midair. She floated in midair and said, "I hope you will not disappoint me." Late stage Xiantian realm? Looking at the lady in blue in midair, Ningyu could not help but be shocked. He then said, "You are the examiner for this round. As long as I can defeat you, I will be able to pass this round and enter the 8th floor." Me. Such arrogance. Whether or not you can enter the 8th floor, you will have to defeat me first. With a cold snort, The lady in blue moved swiftly and appeared in front of Ningyu in a blink of an eye. Then, the lady in blue used her slender palm to ruthlessly chop at Ningyu's neck. What a hot temper. Just one word and you will start a fight. Ningyu did not take the lady in blue seriously. After all, there were not many warriors in the late stage of the Carnate Realm who could defeat him. However, just as Ningyu was about to gather the Yuan Qi on his wrist and attack the lady in blue, his face changed drastically. This was because the Yuan Qi in the 6 cyclones in his sea of consciousness had been exhausted. At this moment, there was not a single bit of Yuan Qi in his sea of consciousness. Damn it! Cursing, Ningyu moved his soul force and controlled the wind, thunder, and fire to rush out of the cyclones and attack the lady in blue's palm. Puff! The wind, thunder, and fire collided with the lady in blue's palm and a loud sound was heard. Then, Ningyu saw a shocking scene. He saw the lady in blue turn her wrist and actually grabbed the wind, thunder, and fire in her hand. Not bad. Wind, thunder, and fire. It seems that you are an alchemist and your soul force is not weak. Throwing away the wind, thunder, and fire, the lady in blue said lightly, "Don't think that you can look down on me because I am in the late stage of the Carnate Realm. To tell you the truth, this body is just a phantom that I left behind. Show me your true strength, or I will beat you out of the ivory tower." The lady in blue rushed out again and launched a powerful attack at Ningyu. I am really King Dog. Seeing the lady in blue attack, Ningyu quickly took out the phantom armor and retreated. In fact, Ningyu also wanted to show his true strength, but he had no way at this moment. The Yuan Qi in his sea of consciousness was exhausted, and the wind, thunder, and fire were not a match for the lady in blue. How could he show his true strength? Moreover, when he tried to cast a soul attack, he was surprised to find that his soul force seemed to be restricted. He could not cast any soul attack. His Yuan Qi was exhausted, and his soul force could not leave his body. Therefore, Ningyu only had one choice, and that was to run while wearing the phantom armor. Fortunately, the phantom armor had been completely refined by Ningyu, and his soul force could enter the phantom armor. Otherwise, with Ningyu's current state, sooner or later, he would be beaten out of the ivory tower by the lady in blue. No, I have to think of a way. While running, Ningyu secretly thought of a countermeasure. Brat, you only know how to run. The lady in blue was very angry. Because the cultivation of her phantom body was only at the late stage of the Carnate Realm, its speed could only reach the middle stage of the true martial realm. Compared to the speed of Ningyu's peak middle stage true martial realm, it was a bit worse, causing her to be unable to catch up with Ningyu. Not running. Do you want me to stop and let you hit me in vain? Pursing his lips, Ningyu controlled the phantom armor and continued to run. Because his soul force had reached the late stage of grade 4, the lady in blue could not catch up with him in a short time. Chapter 170. I'm so angry, I'm so angry. Hearing Ningyu's words, the blue-robed woman was very angry. It could be said that she was extremely angry. Originally, she thought that her speed was comparable to a martial artist in the middle stage of the true martial realm, which was already very good. But now, seeing Ningyu's speed, she felt that her speed was too slow. Since her speed was not comparable to Ningyu's, the blue-robed woman simply stopped and coldly looked at Ningyu. Shua. Seeing the blue-robed woman stop, Ningyu also quickly controlled the phantom armor and stopped in front of the blue-robed woman. Although he stopped, Ningyu's spirit was still highly concentrated, his eyes were firmly staring at the blue-robed woman. As long as she made the slightest movement, he would immediately escape. Didn't they say that this round would test my strongest battle strength? Why did a tigress come out? Cautiously staring at the blue-robed woman, Ningyu muttered. There was no essence chi in his sea of consciousness, and his soul attack spells were also restricted, so how could he test his strongest battle strength? After a brief complaint, Ningyu busily operated the third layer of the transformation spirit technique and quickly absorbed the essence chi inside the high-grade essence crystal. Catcher. Soon, a piece of high-grade essence crystal shattered, and the essence chi inside was completely absorbed. His essence chi absorption speed is so fast. Seeing the high-grade essence crystal shattered in front of Ningyu, the blue-robed woman's mouth slightly opened, revealing an incredible look. She was proud that her essence chi absorption speed was already fast enough, but who would have thought that Ningyu's absorption speed was even faster, more than twice as fast as her? In her opinion, Ningyu's essence chi absorption speed was enough to be compared with the freaks on the true martial battle list. What a freak! Rolling her eyes, the blue-robed woman completely gave up the idea of attacking. She wanted to see, after Ningyu completely replenished his essence chi, how strong would his battle strength be. Ka. Time passed by minute, and with the passage of time, the essence chi in Ningyu's sea of consciousness was also increasing. 1 cyclone, 2 cyclones, 3 cyclones, 6 cyclones. A few hours later, Ningyu stood up abruptly, and his eyes shone brightly. At this moment, he had completely replenished the vitality that he had consumed. He was now in peak condition. I've been waiting for you for a long time. The moment Ningyu stood up, the blue-clothed woman took a step forward. A vigorous wave of yuan qi shot out from her body and attacked Ningyu's face. Facing this powerful yuan qi wave, Ningyu's lips curled up. With a wave of his hand, an equally powerful yuan qi wave struck out and collided with the blue-clothed woman's yuan qi wave. Kai. When the two yuan qi waves collided, there was no earth-shattering sound. There was only a crisp sound. This short exchange had caused the blue-clothed lady's expression to turn grave. Her impression of Ningyu had quietly changed at this moment. In her heart, she had already regarded Ningyu as an evenly matched opponent. With a flick of his wrist, the absolute soul sword appeared in his hand and Ningyu asked in a low voice, "Will I be able to enter the 8th level if I defeat you?" The blue-clothed lady's eyes narrowed, and in the blink of an eye, she appeared in front of Ningyu and began to fight in close combat with Ningyu. The blue-clothed lady knew very well that Ningyu's speed was very fast. If they were to compete in speed, she would definitely not be able to catch up to Ningyu. There was only one way to defeat Ningyu, and that was to fight in close combat. Rely on reflexes and strength to defeat Ningyu. Close combat her. Sensing the blue-clothed lady's intention, the corners of Ningyu's mouth rose unnaturally, and a confident look appeared on his face. The reason why Ningyu was so confident was that close combat relied on reflexes and did not require much strength. According to his judgment, the blue-clothed lady's soul power was only at the early stage of grade 4. She wanted to compete with his late-stage grade 4 soul power in terms of reflexes. Dream on. Bang. At this moment, the blue-clothed lady had already arrived beside Ningyu, and used her exquisite fist to punch Ningyu's chest. Haha, close combat, you're not my... What? The blue-clothed lady smiled as her fist landed on Ningyu's chest. However, before she could finish her sentence, her expression changed drastically. This was because she realized that the Ningyu in front of her had actually dissipated. A shadow. The Ningyu that she thought she had hit was a shadow. Little lass, I'm here. In the next moment, Ningyu appeared behind the blue-clothed lady and said indifferently, "Your speed is inferior to mine, and the strength of your soul power is also inferior to mine. Whether it's close combat or long-range combat, you're no match for me. Also, I've already asked you many times. Since you won't tell me, I can only defeat you." As soon as he finished speaking, Ningyu once again turned into a shadow and disappeared. Not good. The moment Ningyu disappeared, the blue-clothed lady realized that something was wrong. She hurriedly displayed her late-stage grade 4 soul power in an attempt to find Ningyu's location. However, just as she displayed her soul power, Ningyu appeared beside her and punched her shoulder with yuan qi pulsating on his fist. Fart. The enormous force on her shoulder caused the blue-clothed lady's expression to darken and she spat out a mouthful of blood. It can't be. Didn't you say that you're just a shadow? Why are you spitting blood? Ningyu felt that it was a little inconceivable. Logically speaking, a shadow shouldn't spit blood, so how could the blue-clothed lady spit blood? Damn it! Who told you that shadows can't spit blood? Cursing in her heart, the blue-clothed lady angrily said, "This is the blood essence that I left behind on the 6th floor of the ivory tower. Now that you've forced it out of your body, I'm going to tear you apart." Blood essence. Ningyu was stunned and faintly understood. No wonder when he was on the 6th floor, he had to test his innate talent. It turned out that he wanted to leave his blood essence behind. Hooah! However, now was not the time to think too much, because the blue-clothed lady's hands formed a seal and repeatedly blasted out several shadow palm prints. The power of each palm print is actually comparable to a martial artist in the middle stage of the true martial realm. Ningyu's expression turned solemn when he sensed the energy fluctuation coming from the illusory palm. Because the shadow palm prints blasted out by the blue-clothed lady, each of them was comparable to a powerful attack from a martial artist in the middle stage of the true martial realm. Teish Kenpo. With a serious face, Ningyu waved the soul-breaking sword, and in an instant, several shocking sword rays appeared in the air. Go! As Ningyu bellowed, the several sword rays seemed to be guided and unavoidably collided with the shadow palm prints of the blue-clothed lady. Catcher! Catcher! Although the power of the blue-clothed lady's shadow palm prints was great, compared to Ningyu's Teish Kenpo, it was much weaker, and in the blink of an eye, it was blasted away. After the shadow palm prints were blasted away, the remaining Teish Kenpo roared and blasted towards the blue-clothed lady. What? Supreme 9 Purities Sword Art. You actually know the Supreme 9 Purities Sword Art. Are you also a member of the Supreme 9 Purities Temple? Chapter 171. You're from the Supreme 9 Purities Temple. Ningyu was shocked when he heard the woman in blue's words. However, as soon as he finished speaking, he saw the woman in blue being struck by the Teish Kenpo and disappearing. Damn it! Not only did the disappearance of the woman in blue not make Ningyu happy, but it made him look extremely solemn. The woman in blue was most likely from the Supreme 9 Purities Temple. Otherwise, she wouldn't have known about such an important cultivation technique like the Supreme 9 Purities Sword Art. Swoosh! At this moment, the white shadow that appeared on the first few floors once again appeared in front of Ningyu. Haha, congratulations on passing the 7th floor's test. After the white shadow appeared, it first congratulated Ningyu and then said, according to your fight just now, the ivory tower has simulated your shadow and injected the blood essence you forced out on the 6th floor into the shadow. From now on, the next cultivator who comes to this floor will have the chance to draw your phantom body and fight with you. Furrowing his brows, Ningyu asked doubtfully, didn't my blood essence dissipate along with the shattering of the jade piece in the 6th floor? How did you get my blood essence? The jade was only used to test your innate talent. It didn't cause your blood essence to dissipate. On the contrary, your blood essence was preserved perfectly. The white shadow explained, all the martial artists who passed the 7th floor had their blood essence preserved and injected into the shadow. Since the blood essence had been injected into the shadow, Ningyu didn't ask any more questions and asked, in that case, can I enter the 8th floor? Of course, but I have to remind you that the 8th floor of the ivory tower isn't that easy to pass. In short, you can't go wrong being extremely careful. The white shadow's hands moved rhythmically in the air. After a while, a crack appeared in the void in front of him. As time passed, the crack grew larger and larger until it was big enough for a person to pass through. Go in. Good luck. The white shadow pointed at the huge crack and said. However, there was something that the white shadow did not say out loud. Good luck. I can guarantee that the test that fellow gave you will definitely be related to alchemy. Taking a deep breath, Ningyu did not hesitate and leaped into the crack. Buzz. After Ningyu entered the crack, it let out a buzzing sound and then closed up again. Whoosh. At the same time, the largest square in Ivory City was unusually quiet. This sort of silence was terrifying, and it could even be described as deathly silence. Voila! The deathly silence lasted for a full 3 minutes before it was broken by numerous exclamations. Someone actually made it to the 8th floor of the ivory tower. Oh my god, I didn't expect to see a martial artist reach the 8th floor of the ivory tower in my lifetime. The last time someone made it to the 8th floor of the ivory tower was more than 10 years ago, right? This incident will definitely alert the royal family and Danwu College. I believe they will send someone here soon. This is an incident that will shake the entire Great Xia country. Numerous sects and forces will definitely try their best to recruit the martial artist who made it to the 8th floor. Do you think the martial artist who made it to the 8th floor is either Zhong Hu or Yang Yu? A martial artist at the innate stage suddenly said. Hearing the words of the martial artist at the innate stage, everyone in the square shifted their gaze to the high platform. Because Zhong Ziyi and Yang Kuan were there, and their eyes were fixed on the 8th floor of the ivory tower. Who the hell is this martial artist? Who is it? Zhong Ziyi clenched his fists and looked extremely excited. According to the previous few floors, the martial artist who made it to the 8th floor could not be Yang Yu. In other words, it was highly likely that it was between Zhong Hu and another martial artist. If the martial artist who made it to the 8th floor was Zhong Hu, then the Zhong family in Ivory City would completely rise. He might even be recruited into the Zhong family in the capital. However, if the martial artist who made it to the 8th floor was not Zhong Hu, then it would be a disaster for him. Yang Kuan, now can you tell me who is so capable to make it to the 8th floor of the ivory tower? Zhong Ziyi rolled his eyes and said. How could I possibly know? Yang Kuan was also very shocked. He also did not know who the martial artist who made it to the 8th floor was. In his mind, there were two candidates. The first was Ning Yu, and the second was Zhong Hu. However, he was more inclined to believe Ning Yu. After all, he had witnessed Ning Yu's strength. You win, Zhong Ziyi said coldly, forcibly suppressing his anger. Originally, he had planned to attack the city governor's mansion when Zhong Hu came out of the ivory tower. Now, it seemed that he had to postpone this plan. Because it would not be long before the martial artists from Danwu College and the royal family arrived at Ivory City. If he dared to cause trouble at this critical juncture, the consequences would be unimaginable. Therefore, Zhong Ziyi could only suppress his anger and wave his hand to signal the martial artists who were hiding in the surroundings to retreat. Phew! Yang Kuan heaved a sigh of relief when he felt the powerful auras around him disappear. Yang Kuan was very clear that if the city governor's mansion and the Zhong family fought to the death, the city governor's mansion would definitely lose. At the very least, the city governor's mansion did not have the capital to go against the Zhong family. In terms of high-end combat strength, the city governor's mansion and the Zhong family both had half-step Yuan Dan realm martial artists. However, the city governor's mansion and the Zhong family were too weak in terms of core strength. Once the two sides fought, the city governor's mansion would not be able to hold out for long. When the royal family martial artists arrive, I must tell them about this, Yang Kuan said slowly as he stared at the 8th floor of the ivory tower. At the edge of the square, the martial artist in white looked at the ivory tower with a playful smile on his face. The 8th floor of the ivory tower. With this level of talent, even in the Ghost Talent Hall, it is enough to rank in the top 10. With an evil smile, the martial artist in white said softly, if I am not wrong, the martial artist who entered the 8th floor must be the martial artist who killed Master Lung. Now I am looking forward to meeting him. What? Someone actually made it to the 8th floor of the ivory tower? Immediately send someone over. No matter what, we must recruit him into the Sacred Institute. In a spacious room in Danwu College, an elder suddenly stood up from his chair and said, the Sacred Institute is currently lacking manpower. We must not let anyone else get to such a prodigy before us. Principal, who should we send? A middle-aged man opposite the elder asked. Who should we send? Is there a need to ask me about this? Since the Sacred Institute is lacking manpower, then send someone from the Sacred Institute. The elder was infuriated as he said, tell old man Dongfang that if he doesn't handle this matter properly, I will take care of him. At the same time, in a luxurious study room in the Great Xia Kingdom's royal family, someone made it to the 8th floor of the ivory tower. A middle-aged man in his 40s or 50s stood up and said to the elder beside him, ask the third prince to make a trip to Ivory City. We must recruit that martial artist into the royal family. Chapter 172. When Ning Yu came out from the crack, he found himself in a long, narrow, and dark tunnel. So this is the 8th floor of the ivory tower. Ning Yu walked into the tunnel after pondering for a while. As he went deeper, he found that the temperature in the tunnel was getting higher and higher. Bean-sized beads of sweat appeared on Ning Yu's forehead and continuously dripped down along his cheeks. Wiping the sweat off his face, Ningyu stopped and frowned. Why is the temperature getting higher? Could it be? Whoosh. However, before Ningyu could finish his sentence, he saw a dazzling blue flame coming out from the narrow tunnel and closing in on him. Oh no! Seeing the blue flame, Ningyu's expression changed drastically. Without any time to think, he immediately stomped on the ground and retreated quickly. Although there was still some distance between him and the flame, Ningyu could still feel the intense heat from the flame. It made his heart palpitate. The blue flame was extremely fast. It arrived in front of Ningyu the moment he retreated. Hiss. Endless flames burned and collided with Ningyu's yuan qi, producing a hissing sound. Damn it, it's corrosive. The temperature of the blue flame was extremely high and it was corrosive. Ningyu knew that the essence energy around him wouldn't last long. I must chase the flame away. With a cold expression, Ningyu quickly took out the broken soul sword and slashed out several sword rays at the blue flame. However, the blue flame did not dissipate in the face of Ningyu's fierce sword rays. Instead, it became even hotter. Soul power, come out. Feeling helpless, Ningyu could only use his late-stage 4th-grade soul power to suppress the blue flame. Hiss. Just as Ningyu's powerful soul force was about to come into contact with the blue flame suddenly turned into a cold light, and under Ningyu's astonished gaze, it drilled into his brain. As soon as the blue flame entered Ningyu's mind, it seemed to be provoked and flew directly towards the cyclone of wind, thunder, and fire. It didn't take long for him to enter the whirlpool of wind, lightning, and fire. Then, the blue flames and the wind, thunder, and fire started fighting in the cyclone. But very quickly, the blue flames and the wind, thunder, and fire quieted down, each occupying half of the cyclone. They're actually fighting for yuan qi. Sensing the situation of the two flames in the cyclone, Ningyu was a little dumbfounded. It turned out that they both wanted to devour yuan qi to strengthen themselves. Since that was the case, Ningyu might as well go all the way. He injected all the yuan qi in the other 6 cyclones into the cyclones where the wind, thunder, and fire cyclones were. Today, he wanted to see whether the blue flames or the wind, thunder, and fire would gain the upper hand. However, the wind, thunder, and fire cyclones seemed to have reached an agreement. Whoever entered would absorb the yuan qi, while the other one waited quietly. Coexist peacefully? Ningyu was dumbfounded again. He couldn't understand why the two flames that were fighting at the start could coexist peacefully now. Luckily, I managed to stabilize the blue flames. Although this situation wasn't what Ningyu wanted, he was already very satisfied. After all, the blue flames didn't continue to cause trouble. After about 2 hours, when the yuan qi in Ningyu's 3 cyclones was depleted, the blue flames and the wind, thunder, and fire stopped absorbing yuan qi. The wind, thunder, and fire have absorbed the yuan qi of 1 cyclone, while the blue flames have absorbed the yuan qi of 2 cyclones. Sensing the changes in the cyclone's yuan qi, Ningyu frowned slightly and muttered, "From this, the blue flames are at least twice as powerful as the wind, thunder, and fire cyclones." Since he had solved the problem of the blue flames, Ningyu collected his thoughts and continued to walk deeper into the tunnel. After walking for about a quarter of an hour, the area before him suddenly opened up. Roar. However, the next earth-shattering roar caused Ningyu's expression to change greatly. Isn't this 2F** Ked up? As he stared at the enormous creature that had let out the roar, Ningyu was somewhat dazed, completely unable to believe what he was seeing. In front of him was a giant lion. This lion was really too big. Standing in front of it, Ningyu was as small as a pocket-sized person. Most importantly, the powerful aura emitted from the lion's body caused Ningyu's heart to sink to the bottom. Yuandan stage. The giant lion in front of him was covered in golden fur and constantly emitted pressure, indicating that it had already surpassed the peak of the true martial realm and reached the Yuandan stage. Damn it! Cursing in his heart, Ningyu cautiously said, "We have no enmity between us, I will leave now." "If you leave now, it means that you have given up on the 8th floor of the ivory tower." A powerful voice came from the Golden Lion King's mouth. Hearing the Golden Lion King's words, Ningyu was slightly startled. Then, as if he had thought of something, His eyes widened and he said in disbelief, "The condition to pass the 8th floor of the ivory tower, could it be that I have to defeat Senior? Me. Defeat me? Do you have the ability to do so?" With a cold snort, the Golden Lion King said in a deep voice, "Since Old Bai has told me, then I will not make things difficult for you. The test for this floor is very simple. Refine a true martial pill." Hearing this, Ningyu asked, "Senior, are you sure you only want to refine a true martial pill?" Although the true martial pill was extremely difficult to refine, with Ningyu's current soul strength and the experience from his previous life, it was not difficult to refine a true martial pill. If one could pass the 8th floor by refining a true martial pill, wouldn't it mean that many people would be able to pass this floor too? Is it that simple? The Golden Lion King raised his eyebrows and waved its front paws. Suddenly, Ningyu's expression changed, because he realized that the blue flames in his chi whirlpool had become violent. Swoosh! Not long after, the blue flames came out of his chi whirlpool and floated in the air. Whoosh! 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 Then, the Golden Lion King opened its mouth and spat out a few streams of blue flames, floating in the air. Then, the blue flames in the air slowly merged together under Ningyu's astonished gaze. Looking at the flames that had merged together in the air, Ningyu's mouth was slightly open. He was in disbelief. Gulp! Swallowing his saliva, Ningyu said in a deep voice, "It's the indigo spiritual fire, ranked 280th on the mystical fire ranking. This floor is very simple. Use the indigo spiritual fire to refine the true martial pill. No other flames are allowed." Saying this, the Golden Lion King flicked its ear and threw out a bag of medicinal ingredients. On top of that, the indigo spiritual fire in the air also flew to Ningyu and floated above his head. Hearing the Golden Lion King's words, Ningyu was completely dumbfounded. His face was filled with utter confusion. The indigo spiritual fire was a mystical fire, ranked 280th on the mystical fire ranking. But that was not the most important thing. The most important thing was that the Golden Lion King had refined the mystical fire. Chapter 173. Senior, the azure spiritual fire has already been refined by you. How can I use it to refine the true martial pill? Although Ningyu knew that the Golden Lion King was powerful, this stage was a little unrealistic for him. He braced himself and said, "This is too difficult. Didn't you say it was easy just now? Why are you saying it's difficult now?" Curling his lips, the Golden Lion King said lightly, "Don't bullshit with me. 2 hours. I will come and take a look in 2 hours. If you can't make the true martial Dan by then, get the hell out of here." Whoosh! After saying that, the Golden Lion King's huge body flashed and disappeared. However, the moment the Golden Lion King disappeared, a voice appeared next to Ningyu's ears. "I will leave the azure spiritual fire here. If you have the ability to erase my soul imprint, then the azure spiritual fire is yours." Whoosh! Hearing the voice, Ningyu's eyes narrowed and he said in surprise, "Are you serious?" "Yes, but it depends on whether you have the ability or not." The Golden Lion King's voice appeared in the air. "Remember, you only have 2 hours. Buzz." After the Golden Lion King disappeared, it quickly appeared in another hidden space. If Ningyu was here, he would be shocked because there was an old man sitting in front of the Golden Lion King. It was none other than the White Shadow. Seeing the Golden Lion King, the white illusory figure smiled and said, "Golden Lion, aren't you afraid of failing miserably? Ningyu might really snatch away your azure spirit fire. Late stage Xiantian realm, late stage 4th rank soul force. How can he erase the soul imprint I left in the azure spiritual fire?" The Golden Lion King sat on the chair and said in disdain, "I'm not bragging, but even a Yuandan realm warrior might not be able to erase the soul imprint in the azure spiritual fire. To tell you the truth, Ningyu is not simple." The White Shadow clearly wanted to remind the Golden Lion King and said, "On the 5th floor, he defeated a genius from the Corpse Sect's Ghost Talent Palace. Moreover, he used the Corpse Sect's Dark Gold Spirit Corpse." Dark Gold Spirit Corpse? Could it be that Ningyu is also a member of the Corpse Yin sect? The Golden Lion King raised his brow and suddenly stood up. His expression became gloomy and he said, If he really is someone from the corpse sect, then we can't let him live. The White Shadow said, "Don't be impulsive. Ningyu is not a member of the Yin corpse sect. He just has some trump cards. Old White, do you think that Ningyu can use my blue spirit fire to refine a true martial Dan?" Golden Lion King frowned. He, whether or not he can refine the true martial Dan, I don't know. It depends on his own luck. The White Shadow smiled and said, "I'm just reminding you that you can't go back on your word if you fail miserably." Humph. When have I, the Golden Lion King, ever gone back on my word? The Golden Lion King coldly snorted and said fiercely, "As long as he has the ability, so what if I give him the blue spirit fire?" Poochie. At the same time, on the 8th floor of the ivory tower. Looking at the blue spirit fire floating above his head, Ningyu frowned and was thinking of a solution. Just now, he tried to separate a bit of his soul force to approach the blue spirit fire. However, as soon as his soul force got close to the blue spirit fire, it was burned and dissipated. If I'm not wrong, the Golden Lion King's soul force has reached the late phase of the 5th grade. The soul imprint he left in the blue spirit fire has also reached the middle phase of the 5th grade. After taking a deep breath, Ningyu mumbled, "I can only use the Netherworld Samsara Palm's 4th palm strike, Underworld Tyrant Palm." The Netherworld Samsara Palm was a palm technique that attacked the soul and was extremely powerful. Under normal circumstances, with Ningyu's soul force at the late phase of the 4th grade, it was impossible for him to enter the blue spirit fire. However, the Underworld Tyrant Palm was different. Ningyu could envelop his soul force in the Underworld Tyrant Palm and hide the aura of his soul force. Underworld Tyrant Palm. Ningyu did it immediately. His wrist quickly formed a seal and a palm print that wasn't considered big was formed and floated above his wrist. Hiss. In the next moment, Ningyu released all the soul force in his body and drilled into the Underworld Tyrant Palm. Go! As Ningyu shouted, the Underworld Tyrant Palm was guided and attacked the blue spirit fire quickly. Poochie. Feeling the Underworld Tyrant Palm approaching, the blue spirit fire immediately wanted to resist. 2/3 of its soul force surged out, hoping to block the attack of the Underworld Tyrant Palm. Now's the time! When the Golden Lion King's soul force surged out of the blue spirit fire, Ningyu reacted quickly and took out the soul-breaking sword. With a stab, the sword landed right on the Golden Lion King's soul force. Buzz! The soul-breaking sword was a heaven-ranked devouring flying sword. It could even devour Master Lung's 6th grade soul force, let alone the Golden Lion King's 5th grade soul force. In an instant, the Golden Lion King's soul force was completely devoured by the soul-breaking sword. Underworld Tyrant Palm, go in. After his attack succeeded, Ningyu didn't stay idle. Instead, he controlled the Underworld Tyrant Palm and drilled into the blue spirit fire. After the Underworld Tyrant Palm entered the blue spirit fire, it exploded. Vigorous soul force surged out and enveloped a ball of golden soul force from all directions. Senior Golden Lion King, I'm sorry. After pausing for a while, Ningyu clenched his teeth and surged his soul force into the soul force crazily. Since 2/3 of the soul force in the soul force had been devoured by the soul-breaking sword, the remaining 1/3 did not last for long before it was completely destroyed by Ningyu. Soul force, imprint. Ningyu focused his eyes and separated a part of his soul force to imprint a soul force in the blue spirit fire. Fart. After Ningyu imprinted the soul force, the Golden Lion King suddenly stood up from the chair in the secret space. He felt something sweet in his throat and spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. What? This is impossible. The Golden Lion King couldn't care less about the blood at the corner of his mouth. He was shocked and said, "This is impossible. How is this possible? This is absolutely impossible. Golden Lion, could it be that Ningyu really took away the blue spirit fire?" Seeing the Golden Lion King's reaction, the White Shadow was shocked as well. Although he said that he thought highly of Ningyu, he didn't believe that Ningyu could control the blue spirit fire. One must know that the Golden Lion King's cultivation was at the beginning stage of the primal core stage, and his soul force was at the advanced stage of the 5th grade. Whether it was martial arts cultivation or soul force, the Golden Lion King absolutely crushed Ningyu. How could Ningyu take away the control of the blue spirit fire? Yes. The Golden Lion King took a deep breath. At this point, he had no choice but to accept this reality. The blue spirit fire that he was so proud of had been completely taken away by Ningyu. No, I went through so much trouble to obtain the blue spirit fire. I can't let Ningyu have it so easily. The Golden Lion King's face turned cold and he flew towards the space where Ningyu was. Chapter 174. Whoosh. Since the Golden Lion King was worried about his indigo spiritual fire, he immediately appeared on the 8th floor of the tower. Where's Ningyu? However, when the Golden Lion King appeared on the 8th floor of the ivory tower, it had a terrible look on its face. He did not see Ningyu here. He unleashed his soul power, but he did not sense any aura of the indigo spiritual fire either. All of a sudden, the Golden Lion King seemed to have thought of something and exclaimed, "Don't tell me he has entered the 9th level." "That's possible," the White Shadow said. Oh no, this is too much." The Golden Lion King's face turned pale. It seemed that the White Shadow was right. He had failed miserably this time. The indigo spiritual fire was ranked 280th on the mystical fire leaderboard. It was a great helper for making pills. Without the indigo spiritual fire, his alchemy skills would drop by a few levels. Moreover, the 9th floor of the ivory tower was different from the lower floors. He could speak and come and go freely from the first 8 floors of the ivory tower to the lower floors. However, he was not even qualified to enter the 9th floor of the tower. What kind of freak is Ningyu? The Golden Lion King's face darkened. He had never thought that Ningyu would be able to refine the true martial pill so quickly. Even with his alchemy skills, it was impossible for him to refine the true martial pill in such a short time. Elder Bai, can you think of a way to communicate with the people on the 9th floor? The Golden Lion King asked Elder Bai for help after some thought. However, before he could finish his sentence, the White Shadow shook its head and said, "Golden Lion King, don't even think about it. I can't enter the 9th floor of the tower either." "You can't enter either?" The Golden Lion King had the urge to slap himself. Why did he have to play a prank on Ningyu? Now, even the indigo spiritual fire is gone. Meanwhile, on the 9th floor of the tower, Ningyu looked at an old man in a black robe in front of him. He opened his mouth but could not say a word. The black-robed old man's aura was even more powerful than the Golden Lion King's. If the Golden Lion King was at the early stage of the primal core stage, then the black-robed elder would at least be at the late stage of the primal core stage. He had even reached the pinnacle of primal core. A moment later, the black-robed old man looked at Ningyu and frowned. "Late Xiantian realm, how did you pass through the 8th floor?" Hearing the black-robed elder's words, Ningyu hurriedly held the refined real martial pill in his hand and told the black-robed elder what had happened on the 8th floor of the ivory tower. Nonsense. That stupid lion is really messing around. The black-robed old man released his aura and said coldly, "With your strength, even if I give you the token and let you challenge the Skysplit Tower, you won't be able to pass the first 3 levels. Skysplit Tower. Ningyu's complexion changed. He couldn't help but cry out. This was because in his past life, he had heard of Skysplit Tower. Skysplit Tower was located in the central continent, where the geniuses of the Sky Demon region gathered. Rumor had it that Skysplit Tower had a total of 33 floors. Since its establishment, very few people had been able to make it past the 30th floor. However, any martial artist who had made it past the 30th floor had become an all-powerful existence in the Sky Demon region. In his past life, Ningyu had also wanted to challenge Skysplit Tower, but due to various reasons, he had missed the opening time of Skysplit Tower. Now that he had the opportunity to enter Skysplit Tower in this life, Ningyu naturally didn't want to miss it. "Oh, you've heard of Skysplit Tower?" Seeing Ningyu's reaction, the black-robed old man raised his eyebrows and said calmly, "If that's the case, it seems that I don't need to say more. You don't want to enter Skysplit Tower. I'll send you away from the ivory tower. Sir, it seems that there are only 2 restrictions to enter Skysplit Tower. First, you must not be more than 30 years old, and second, your cultivation must not exceed the peak of the real martial realm." Ningyu asked, "I didn't expect you to know so much." The black-robed old man couldn't help but look at Ningyu and explained, "But those were the rules of 20 years ago. Now, there is only one rule, and that is, you must get a token in order to enter Skysplit Tower. Aye. Subsequently, the black-robed old man sighed and said, the current Skysplit Tower is no longer the Skysplit Tower of 20 years ago. Forget it, let's not talk about it. Sir, if I break through to the 9th floor of the Ivory Tower, can I get a token to enter Skysplit Tower? Ningyu asked again. Your strength is very weak. If I give you the token, it will be the same as sending you to your death. The black-robed old man said in a deep voice. Sir, I want to give it a try. If there is any fear on the road of cultivation, I will definitely not go far on the road of martial arts. Ningyu cupped his fists and said, Sir, please grant me my wish. Boy, why don't you listen to my advice? Forget it, since you want the token, I'll give you a chance. With that, the black-robed old man suddenly stamped his foot. The ground beside him suddenly sank, and a round pool emerged. The liquid in the pool was reddish-brown. Swish. After the pool emerged, the black-robed old man made a strange hand seal, and then a figure appeared in front of Ningyu. Xiantian Full Realm. Seeing the figure next to him, Ningyu's face changed slightly. It was not because the figure in front of him was a Xiantian Full Realm martial artist, but because of the powerful aura exuding from the martial artist in front of him, which was comparable to a martial artist at the peak of the real martial realm. Let me introduce, this is Xu Wui, the martial artist who broke through to the 9th floor of the Ivory Tower last time. He is also the only martial artist who broke through to the 9th floor since the establishment of this tower. The black-robed old man pointed at the figure. Xu Wui, the martial artist who occupied the first place on the Innate Realm battle list for 3 months. Ningyu said in surprise. Ningyu had heard from Yang Yu that Xu Wui was a freak. When he was at the early stage of the Xiantian realm, he had broken through to the 9th floor of the Ivory Tower. When he came out, his cultivation had reached the Xiantian Full Realm, and he was only a step away from the real martial realm. There was a rumor that not long after Xu Wui left Ivory City, 3 martial artists at the peak of the real martial realm besieged him. As a result, the 3 martial artists at the peak of the real martial realm were all killed by his sword. From this, it could be seen how terrifying Xu Wui's strength was at the Xiantian Full Realm. I'll give you a chance to defeat Xu Wui. Of course, with your current strength, defeating Xu Wui is just a pipe dream. The black-robed old man was very satisfied with Ningyu's reaction, and continued, the liquid in this pool is made from 91 kinds of medicinal herbs. It contains extremely powerful energy. You can cultivate in it for 3 days, and after 3 days, you can fight with Xu Wui. As long as you can defeat Xu Wui, I'll give you the token and let you go to the Skysplit Tower. Hihi, how about it? It's not too late to give up now. The black-robed old man concluded that Ningyu would definitely give up, and laughed. However, Ningyu's next words made the black-robed old man's face turn a little ugly. Senior, I want to give it a try. Chapter 175. You win. I'll come back in 3 days. I'll let Xu Wuyi fight you then. Seeing Ningyu jump into the pool without any preparation, the black-robed elder's mouth twitched. He waved his hand and left with Xu Wuyi. Kai. As for Ningyu, he didn't think too much when he jumped into the pool. But after entering the pool, he felt his scalp go numb. Hiss. The reddish-brown liquid in the pool wrapped around Ningyu's skin. The feeling of being hot one moment and cold the next made Ningyu suck in a breath of cold air. The energy contained in this reddish-brown liquid is several levels higher than the intermittent cold jade fluid. Enduring the pain on his skin, Ningyu hurriedly used the spiritual transformation technique and began to slowly absorb the energy in the reddish-brown liquid. The intermittent cold jade fluid was a 6th-grade medicinal liquid. Its medicinal effects were equivalent to a 6th-grade medicinal pill. If Ningyu's guess was right, the reddish-brown liquid was at least a 7th-grade medicinal liquid. The energy contained in it was even more powerful than a 7th-grade medicinal pill. Absorb. Ningyu's soul surged as he circulated the spiritual transformation technique to the extreme. The powerful energy around him broke through the surface of his skin and slowly entered his body. Wang Wang. Ningyu had already cultivated the spirit transformation art to the 3rd level. The speed at which he absorbed primordial energy was extremely fast. In just 10 minutes or so, he felt that the primordial energy in his sea of consciousness was bursting to the brim. He couldn't store any more. No, if this goes on, I'll definitely explode and die. Ningyu's face changed as he stopped circulating the spiritual transformation art. With a thought, he entered his consciousness and observed the 6 cyclones in it. Ningyu was really surprised by this observation. Because he discovered that among the 6 cyclones, at least 3 of them seemed to be on the verge of exploding. The explosion of a cyclone was no laughing matter. It might even blow up Ningyu's sea of consciousness. Thus, Ningyu's face turned somewhat ugly to behold. Suddenly, Ningyu clenched his teeth and said fiercely, "Let's do it. The pool contains such a huge amount of energy, why don't I take this opportunity to try splitting the cyclone?" Ningyu was not an indecisive person. He immediately calmed his mind and activated the spirit transformation art, controlling the energy into one of the cyclones. Moreover, Ningyu had also controlled the speed at which the energy entered the cyclone. It was neither too fast nor too slow. Kacha. About a quarter of an hour later, a cracking sound came from Ningyu's sea of consciousness. Faster. Hearing this cracking sound, Ningyu did not hesitate and immediately increased the speed at which he absorbed the energy. Ka. As the speed at which the energy was being absorbed increased, a cracking sound could be heard. Peng. 2 hours later, a deep sound rang out. Then, Ningyu's face lit up with joy. One of the cyclones has split into 2. At this moment, one cyclone in Ningyu's sea of consciousness had successfully split into 2. In other words, there were a total of 8 cyclones in his sea of consciousness. Ningyu did not let his guard down just because one cyclone had successfully split into 2. Instead, he carefully activated the spirit transformation art and controlled the energy to enter the other cyclone. After all, he had 3 days, so Ningyu did not panic at all. Everything proceeded in an orderly manner. Peng, 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 peng. As time passed, the sounds of the cyclones splitting in Ningyu's sea of consciousness continued to ring out. About 10 hours later, when the last dull sound rang out, Ningyu let out a long breath. All 6 cyclones have successfully split. Looking at the 12 cyclones in his sea of consciousness, Ningyu nodded his head in satisfaction. To be precise, there were a total of 13 cyclones in his sea of consciousness, including the cyclones of wind, thunder, fire, and azure spiritual fire. The maximum number of cyclones a Xiantian realm martial artist could split into was 16 cyclones. Now, when Ningyu was in the late stage of the Xiantian realm, he had already split the cyclones into 13 cyclones. Before advancing to the true martial realm, there was still a chance for him to continue splitting the cyclones. Let me see how much energy a cyclone can hold. His eyes narrowed. Ningyu operated the spirit transformation art to the extreme. The energy in his body followed the spirit transformation art and entered his sea of consciousness, finally flowing into the cyclones. Xiantian Great Completion. True Martial Realm Early Stage, True Martial Realm Early Stage, True Martial Realm Middle Stage. Half an hour later, Ningyu's eyes were wide open, his face filled with disbelief. True Martial Realm Middle Stage. The energy in my cyclones is actually comparable to a true martial realm middle stage martial artist. In fact, it was no wonder that Ningyu was shocked. The energy in one cyclone was equivalent to a true martial realm middle stage martial artist. 12 cyclones were equivalent to 12 true martial realm middle stage martial artist. To be precise, if Ningyu filled the cyclones with energy, his combat strength would at least be several times stronger than before. 11 more. Taking a deep breath, Ningyu no longer thought about it. Instead, he operated the spirit transformation art and began to replenish the energy in the remaining cyclones. Shua. 1 day later, Ningyu's eyes were filled with excitement. Because at this moment, he had filled all 12 cyclones with energy, reaching his peak state. Not enough. With my current state, it's impossible to defeat Shu Wui. Although his strength had increased a lot, when he thought of Shu Wui, the powerful existence who occupied the first place on the innate realm ranking for 3 months, Ningyu's face turned cold and he said in a deep voice, Xiantian full cycle. I want to break through to the Xiantian full cycle. Ningyu knew that he had only cultivated for a short period of time. If he wanted to defeat Shu Wui, there was only one way, and that was to advance to the Xiantian full cycle. Only by advancing to the Xiantian full cycle and increasing the Yuan Qi capacity in the cyclones, would he have a chance to defeat Shu Wui. However, the chance was not very big. In fact, Ningyu had just advanced to the Xiantian late phase not long ago. If it wasn't to defeat Shu Wui, it would be impossible for him to break through to the Xiantian full cycle in such a short period of time. After all, the former first place on the innate realm ranking gave Ningyu a lot of pressure. Swoosh, swoosh. At the same time, at the gate of Ivory City, two figures suddenly appeared. They were so fast that in the blink of an eye, they appeared above the square where the ivory tower was located and steadily landed on the high platform. Shua. Seeing these two figures, all the martial artists on the high platform, including Yang Kuan and Zhong Ziyi, stood up. Not only that, everyone in the square also shifted their gaze to the high platform. More accurately, they shifted their gaze to the two figures that suddenly appeared on the high platform. Who are they? Why can't I feel a trace of Yuan Qi from them? I can't feel it either. However, I'm sure that they are not ordinary people. I know that too. Look at Zhong Ziyi and Yang Kuan. They are standing on the same spot and they don't even dare to breathe. Their foreheads are even sweating. Could it be that they are also here for the martial artist in the ivory tower? Chapter 176. Do you know who the martial artist on the 8th floor of the ivory tower is? One of the two figures was an old man, and the other was a middle-aged man in his 40s. The old man glanced at the ivory tower, then turned to Yang Kuan, and said in a deep voice, to be able to enter the 8th floor of the ivory tower, you have reached the standard of the Sacred Institute. You can enter the Sacred Institute as an exception. Sacred Institute? You are from Danwu College. Hearing the old man's words, Yang Kuan was first stunned. Following that, he revealed an astonished expression as he exclaimed, I know. You guys are here to recruit the genius martial artists from the Ivory Tower into the Danwu Academy's sacred institution. Sigh, actually I don't know who the martial artist on the 8th floor of the Ivory Tower is. Then, Yang Kuan sighed and said, among the martial artists who entered the Ivory Tower this time, the one who has the highest chance of entering the 8th floor is Zhong Hu from the Zhong family. After knowing that the old man and the middle-aged man were from Danwu College, Yang Kuan did not dare to slight them at all and maintained a respectful expression. After all, Danwu College was a huge force in the Great Xia Kingdom. Even the royal family had to show some respect to them, not to mention he was just the governor of a small ivory city. Zhong Hu. The old man raised his eyebrows and said, I don't care if he is Zhong Hu or Yang Hu, he is already a member of the Sacred Institute. Ha ha ha, when did the vice-dean of the Sacred Institute become so domineering? However, before the old man finished his words, a loud laughter rang out. After that, a figure tore through the void and appeared, descending on the high platform. Whoosh, whoosh. After this figure appeared, another two figures appeared and leaped onto the high platform. Third Prince. On the high platform, Yang Kuan hurriedly took a step forward and cupped his fists. I didn't know the third prince was coming, please forgive me for not going out to welcome you. It's okay, I was also ordered to come here in the face of danger. It's not a crime to be ignorant. The third prince was about 25 years old. He held a folding fan in his hand and wore a smile on his face, looking like a pale scholar. Haha, I was wondering who it was. So it's third brother Mu. The old man from the Sacred Institute was slightly stunned when he saw this figure appear abruptly, and then he smiled and said, What? You intend to fight for this genius with my Danwu College as well? Unfortunately, this genius is already a member of our Sacred Academy. You can return now. Old Ghost Fang, don't play this game with me. Waving his hand, old Mu said indifferently, Your Sacred Institute lacks people, so does the Imperial family. In another year, it will be the royal clan contest on the Mystic Moon continent. If the Great Xia Kingdom's royal clan isn't able to distinguish themselves, the consequences will be unimaginable. The Xianyu continent's royal family battle was a grand event for the various empires. In the battle, each country could send 5 to 10 cultivators to participate. There was a wager for the battle for the throne. The lowest wager was a city the size of Ivory City. Previously, the Great Xia Kingdom had suffered a crushing defeat in the battle for the royal clan. They had lost more than a dozen cities. If they were to lose so many cities again, the Great Xia Kingdom might be demoted to a kingdom and leave the ranks of empires. Of course, not everyone could represent the royal family to participate in the contest. 3 conditions had to be met. First, the age couldn't be more than 30 years old. Second, the martial arts cultivation couldn't be lower than the true martial realm. Third, and most importantly, he must be a member of the royal clan. Old Mu, are you sure the martial artist in Ivory City is a member of the royal clan? Fang Yuanzi asked. Hehe, it's easy to make him a member of the royal clan. There are many princesses in the royal clan. Just marry one to him. Mu Sanming laughed. Besides, the Sacred Institute already has a peerless genius like Zhong Tianwen. Shouldn't this martial artist be given to us? Give him to you. Dream on. Fang Yuanzi said coldly, in another 6 months, it will be the 100 Academy tournament of the Mystic Moon continent. Although Zhong Tianwen is strong, the Sacred Institute is relatively weak. If we can recruit this genius martial artist into the Sacred Institute and train him for half a year, he will definitely be able to occupy a place on the true martial ranking. Swish, 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 swish. Just as Fang Yuanzi and Mu Sanming were arguing for Ningyu, a few more figures appeared in the sky above the square. After a while, they landed on the high platform. Then, several figures appeared on both sides of the high platform. Obviously, they belonged to 2 factions. Xiaochang, if I'm not wrong, the Drunken Cloud Villa should be in a mess now, right? Why do you have the time to stroll around here? One of the middle-aged men said with a sinister smile. It was obvious that the 2 factions that appeared were not on good terms. I heard that not long after Zhong Wanyong's death, Zhong Jin, who went to investigate, also died tragically in Tianqian City. Why doesn't the dignified head of the Zhong family investigate the cause of their deaths? Why does he have time to come here to join in the fun? Xiao Chang curled his lips and said lightly, swish, swish. Hearing this, Zhong Jun's expression changed. He was just about to say something, but he stopped abruptly. Because, another 2 figures emerged from the entrance of the square and quickly flew onto the high platform. Little girl. Seeing the figure, Fang Yuanzi was slightly startled and immediately said, the daughter of the current pavilion master of Shuiyu Pavilion. Lu Wei. Danwu College's assessment should be coming to the last round. Why are you here instead of participating in the assessment? Elder Fang. Lu Wei clasped her hands at Fang Yuanzi and said, I'm not here to join in the fun. I'm just passing by. Actually, Lu Wei had missed the final assessment of Danwu College this time mainly to look for Ningyu. To be more precise, she wanted to ask Ningyu to find his master. Her father and the others had worked together to refine the elixir of life and death. Now that they were at a critical juncture, a huge problem had arisen. This problem could only be solved by an alchemist with a level 8 soul power. At this critical juncture, Lu Wei could not be bothered to participate in Danwu College's assessment anymore. She immediately set off for Tianqian City. Unfortunately, in Tianqian City, Lu Wei could not find Ningyu. Just as she was about to return to the capital dejectedly, she met the Emperor of the Dark World on her way. The Emperor of the Dark World told Lu Wei that Ningyu was in the Ivory Tower at this time. If she wanted to find Ningyu, she had to wait at the central square of Ivory City. Therefore, Lu Wei rushed to Ivory City without stopping and happened to encounter the gathering of so many powerful martial artists. What could it be? Shifting her gaze to the ivory fighting platform, Lu Wei opened her mouth slightly when she saw the continuous light on the 8th floor. She was shocked and whispered, he made it to the 8th floor of the Ivory Tower? Who? Little girl, do you know the martial artist on the 8th floor? Tell me who he is. Tell me who that martial artist is. How do you know that genius martial artist? What's his name? Where is his home? Who are his family members? Although Lu Wei's voice was very low, who were the people around her? All of them were the top martial artists in the Great Xia Kingdom. Naturally, they heard Lu Wei's whisper. Chapter 177. Surrounded by so many powerhouses, Lu Wei was stunned for a moment. She opened her mouth slightly and couldn't say a word for a long time. She did come here to look for Ningyu, but she didn't know whether the martial artist on the 8th floor was Ningyu or not. It was just a guess. Moreover, even if the martial artist on the 8th floor was Ningyu, she wouldn't say it out loud. I don't know who the martial artist inside is. Lu Wei shook her head and said, after all, I just arrived here. How could I know who is inside? Forget it, we won't make things difficult for you. Hearing Lu Wei's words, Fang Yuanzi raised his eyebrows and said calmly, if that's the case, let's wait until the genius martial artist comes out from the ivory tower. Then everything will be clear. All right. Mu Sanming nodded and found a chair to sit on. Beside him, the third prince stood respectfully. Zhong Jun came to Zhong Ziyi and whispered a few words to him. Then, he sat on a chair and closed his eyes slowly. As for Xiao Chang, he found a chair on the high platform and sat down. He closed his eyes and rested. The high platform, which was bustling with noise just a moment ago, suddenly became a little quiet. Since the 4 powerhouses didn't speak, the others on the high platform naturally didn't dare to speak. No one on the high platform made a sound, so the whole square became abnormally quiet, so quiet that it was a little scary. Whoosh! Ningyu didn't know about the silence in the square. At this time, he was staying in the pool, and the energy around him entered his body through his skin and then crazily entered his consciousness. See? Damn it! Just a little bit more. Feeling the changes in the chi whirlpool in his consciousness, Ningyu gritted his teeth and poured out all his soul power. He kept suppressing the energy in the pool and forcing it into his consciousness. Bang! A few hours later, a pleasant voice resounded in this space. Ningyu's eyes opened wide when he heard this, and wild joy appeared on his face. Crack! Following that, another cracking sound rang out. Looking at the changes in the chi whirlpool in his consciousness, Ningyu directly jumped out of the pool. Complete innate realm. The chi whirlpool in his knowledge had expanded by several times. This indicated that Ningyu had successfully broken through the Xiantian late stage and had reached the consummate stage of the Xiantian realm. Now, the amount of yuan qi contained in each cyclone should be comparable to a martial artist at the peak of the middle stage of the true martial realm. Taking a deep breath, Ningyu did not stay at the edge of the pool for too long. He leaped into the pool once more and sank to the bottom. As Ningyu continued to sink, the energy around him was like a flood or a ferocious beast, crazily drilling into his body. Fortunately, after Ningyu had advanced to the peak of the innate realm, his body's strength had increased a lot. Otherwise, with so much energy entering his body, it was very likely that his body would explode. Another few hours passed. By the end of the second day, Ningyu had filled all 12 cyclones. There is still 1 day left. I will use this last day to practice the Supreme 9 Purities sword art. His figure flashed, and Ningyu arrived at the edge of the pool. Although he had advanced to the consummate stage of the Xiantian realm, and the number of cyclones had increased to 13, Ningyu still did not have much confidence in defeating Xu Wuyi. If Ningyu's guess was right, the strength of this phantom body of Xu Wuyi could easily defeat a martial artist at the peak of the true martial realm, and could even contend with a martial artist at the half-step Yuan Dan realm. And his current comprehensive strength was at best comparable to a martial artist at the peak of the true martial realm. Facing a martial artist at the half-step Yuan Dan realm, it was basically impossible for him to win. Therefore, he had to practice the Supreme 9 Purities sword art to the 4th form. Only then would he have a chance of defeating Xu Wuyi. With a flick of his wrist, the soul-breaking sword appeared in Ningyu's hand. At this time, Ningyu's face was solemn, because he only had 1 day to practice the 4th form of the Supreme 9 Purities sword art. The 4th form of the Supreme 9 Purities sword art was extremely difficult to practice. Even if he had advanced to the consummate stage of the Xiantian realm, he did not have absolute confidence that he could successfully practice it in a day. As long as I can cultivate it to the realm of initial success, it will be enough. According to Ningyu's speculation, there was hope for him to cultivate the fourth form of the Supreme Nine Purities sword art to the realm of initial success in a day. Swoosh. However, just as Ningyu was recalling the cultivation method of the fourth form of the Supreme Nine Purities sword art in his mind, a cold light suddenly swept out from his body and quickly entered the pool. A semicircular blue pendant. Although the cold light's speed was incomparably fast, Ningyu's superb perception still discovered its true form. It was the semicircular blue pendant that his father had given him. It can't be that it wants to absorb the energy in the pool, right? The moment the blue pendant entered the pool, Ningyu's expression changed slightly, and a bad feeling arose in his heart. If it was somewhere else, naturally, Ningyu would not think too much about it, and he would even help the blue pendant absorb the energy. However, it was different here, because this pool belonged to the black-robed old man. The black-robed old man only told him to cultivate in the pool for 3 days, but he did not say that he should use some kind of magic treasure to absorb the energy in the pool. Buzz. The next moment, a strong suction instantly erupted from the blue pendant, and in an instant, the remaining huge amount of energy in the pool was completely absorbed. The sudden change made Ningyu directly dumbfounded. He did not expect the blue pendant to have such a strong suction, and in just a few seconds, it actually absorbed all the energy in the pool. Crack, crack. After that, the blue pendant flew to float in front of Ningyu, and 2 cracking sounds came from it. What's going on? Is there something in it? Hearing the cracking sounds, Ningyu frowned. He wanted to use his soul power to check on the pendant, but felt that it was not advisable. After all, the pendant was a devouring pendant, and it could devour soul power. Ningyu was not a fool. He would not let his soul power be devoured by the pendant. Swoosh. At this moment, the blue pendant turned into a shadow and instantly drilled into Ningyu's sea of knowledge. Moreover, the blue pendant did not enter the other cyclones, but directly entered the cyclone where the wind lightning fire and the indigo spiritual fire were. Pest. However, what the blue pendant did next made Ningyu want to curse. This was because after the blue pendant entered the cyclone, it directly exploded with a strong suction force, and swallowed the wind lightning fire into its body. F***CK. Ningyu could not help but curse, and his forehead was full of black lines. Although the wind lightning fire was not as precious as the indigo spiritual fire, it was still a rare flame. Just like that. No. Indigo spiritual fire. Thinking of this, Ningyu hurriedly controlled the indigo spiritual fire to fly out of the cyclone, and wrapped it around his finger. Phew. After doing all that, Ningyu let out a long sigh of relief, and thought that it was a close call. The indigo spiritual fire was a flame on the mysterious flames ranking. If it was devoured by the blue pendant, he would not even have tears to cry. After the blue pendant swallowed the wind lightning fire, it became obedient, and quietly stayed in the cyclone, and became silent. It's good enough that I can keep the indigo spiritual fire. Ningyu carefully controlled the indigo spiritual fire to fly into the air, and then recalled the 4th style of the Supreme 9 Pure Sword skill, the 9 Pure Sword Wave. Chapter 178. Swoosh. The sword ripple was as thick as Ningyu's waist. The boundless primordial chi that it contained even shocked Ningyu. Pa. Then, the sword ripple split into 2 and exploded in mid-air. The powerful aftershock even caused the air to be compressed and scattered in all directions. No, the power of the 9 clarity sword ripple can't be so weak. Ningyu frowned and fell into deep thought. Logically speaking, the power of the 4th style of the Supreme 9 clarity sword art, the 9 clarity sword ripple, shouldn't be so weak. It was only slightly stronger than the Teish Kenpo. The reason why the 9 clarity sword ripple contained boundless primordial chi was because Ningyu had advanced to the Xiantian full cycle. The primordial chi in his sea of consciousness was abundant, and there was a lot of primordial chi wrapped around the soul-breaking sword. Hence, there was a lot of primordial chi in the 9 clarity sword ripple. Recalling the cultivation method of the 9 clarity sword ripple, Ningyu waved the soul-breaking sword and slashed out several sword ripples. Pa. Pa. Several sword waves split into 2 in midair before exploding in an instant. Where did I go wrong? The 9 clarity sword ripple, as the name suggested, could split into 9 to deal a fatal blow to the enemy. Now that the sword ripple was only split into 2, it was obvious that his cultivation method was wrong. Ningyu could feel that if he continued to cultivate according to this method, even if he exhausted all the primordial qi in his sea of consciousness, he wouldn't be able to make any progress. Although Ningyu didn't have high hopes of splitting the sword ripple into 9 in a short period of time, he should at least be able to split the sword ripple into 4 within a day, right? That's right, I can use soul power. Suddenly, Ningyu seemed to have thought of something and his face lit up. Then, Ningyu separated a portion of his soul power to wrap around the soul-breaking sword. He then waved the soul-breaking sword again and a sword ripple was formed instantly, piercing into the void. Buzz! This time, when the sword ripple reached mid-air, Ningyu moved his soul power and controlled the sword ripple to split it into 4. Pa. Just as Ningyu split his soul force into 4 strands, the huge sword wave in the air also split into 4 sword waves with a swoosh. Moreover, the 4 sword waves exploded in the air. I see. If you want to cultivate the 9 clear sword wave to the large success stage, you'll need the help of your soul power. When he saw the sword wave split into 4, Ningyu revealed an overjoyed expression because he'd already found the method to cultivate the 9 clarity sword wave. After a brief moment of surprise, Ningyu waved the soul-breaking sword in his hand and continued to cultivate the 9 clear sword wave. Since he had found the cultivation method, Ningyu's cultivation speed increased significantly. 2 hours later, the sword wave split into 5. 6 hours later, the sword wave split into 7. 10 hours later, the sword wave split into 8. 14 hours later, the sword wave split into 9. Looking at the sword wave that had split into 9, Ningyu let out a long sigh. He didn't even dare to believe his eyes. Originally, he thought that it would be very good if he could cultivate the 9 clear sword wave to the initial success stage before the 3-day time limit. Who would have thought that he had already cultivated the 9 clear supreme sword technique's 4th form, the 9 clear sword wave, successfully in 5 to 6 hours. Although Ningyu had cultivated the 9 clear sword wave to the large success stage, nothingness wasn't a pushover. Ningyu still didn't have much confidence in defeating nothingness. Therefore, he had to use the last 5 to 6 hours to adjust his condition and strive to face nothingness in his peak condition. Swoosh! Time flew, and 6 hours passed in the blink of an eye. Ningyu stood up with a swoosh and looked straight ahead with a solemn expression. This was because in front of him, nothingness stood with his hands behind his back. His eyes were shining brightly. Nothingness's current condition was very different from 3 days ago. The difference was huge. If one had to point out the difference, it would be that nothingness gave Ningyu the feeling that he had come alive. Ha, Ningyu, I used these 3 days to repair Nihility's body, Ningyu said with a smile. The black-robed elder beside nothingness smiled. Nothingness's current body's combat power is comparable to the number 1 martial artist on the innate realm battle list. Didn't nothingness dominate the innate realm battle list for 3 months? Ningyu was taken aback. His combat power should be much stronger than the martial artists on the innate realm battle list. Could it be that the black-robed elder was kind enough to reduce nothingness's strength? Thinking of this, Ningyu's fighting spirit rose. After all, the reduction of nothingness's strength was good for him. However, the black-robed elder's next words made Ningyu want to vomit blood. Don't think too much. 3 days ago, nothingness's strength wasn't that strong. That's because his body was formed from a drop of blood essence. The black-robed elder waved his hand. In other words, 3 days ago, nothingness's combat power was only comparable to when he was on the 6th level of the ivory tower. And his current combat power is equivalent to when he was on the 9th level. That's why I said that he is comparable to the number 1 martial artist on the innate realm battle list. The black-robed elder continued. If you think that his strength is too weak, I can restore his strength to the 10th level. Hearing the black-robed old man's words, Ningyu hurriedly waved his hand and said, No. What a joke. The 9th level of nothingness was already comparable to the number 1 martial artist on the innate realm battle list. Once nothingness was restored to the 10th level, Zhu Donghuang would have no chance of winning. Not bad. You advanced from the late stage to the peak of the Xiantian realm in 3 days. Your combat power has increased a lot. The black-robed elder nodded and walked towards the pool when he felt the aura from Ningyu. It seems that the medicinal liquid I brewed was of great help to you. After a while, the black-robed elder came to the side of the pool. However, his mouth was slightly agape and he was a little dumbfounded. This was because he realized that the liquid in the pool was unusually clear. It was so clear that he could see the bottom. What's going on? Where did all the energy go? The black-robed elder rubbed his eyes and looked at the pool again. He probed the pool with his perception. Ningyu. Suddenly, the black-robed elder shouted and turned to Ningyu. What the hell is going on? It was no wonder that the black-robed elder was shocked. The medicinal liquid in the pool had taken him a long time to brew. The energy contained in it was enormous. Even if he were to absorb it, he would need a long time to fully absorb it. But now, there was nothing left. I don't know either. Looking at the black-robed elder's reaction, Ningyu made up his mind not to tell the truth. Based on the black-robed elder's reaction, Ningyu was sure that if he admitted it, the consequences would be unimaginable. Even if nothingness didn't do anything, the black-robed elder would kill him himself. Senior, I jumped out of the pool after I advanced to the full foundation of the Xiantian realm. As for what happened in the pool, I don't know. Chapter 179. What you said is not without reason. The old man thought about it and felt that Ningyu wasn't lying. After all, with Ningyu's cultivation at the peak of the Xiantian realm, it was impossible for his sea of consciousness to hold so much energy. However, the old man's face sank once more. Even though it's impossible for you to absorb so much energy, you can use a magic treasure to absorb it. The old man knew very well that it wasn't difficult for some magic treasures that surpassed the heaven rank to absorb all the energy in the pool. Senior, you can't wrongly accuse me. Ningyu shrugged. If I had such a powerful magic treasure, I would have broken through to the true martial realm a long time ago. How could I still be at the peak of the Xiantian realm? Swoosh. In the next moment, the old man unleashed his aura and flashed towards Ningyu. His powerful senses were constantly searching for something on Ningyu's body. Ningyu hurriedly guarded his mind and hid the pendant in the whirlpool. Really? A moment later, the old man withdrew his aura and senses, frowned slightly, and muttered, "Did the energy in the pool really vanish into thin air?" Ningyu stood on the spot and didn't say anything. A moment later, the old man spoke indifferently, "Forget it. I will naturally investigate this matter. Now, you can fight Shu Wui. If you can defeat Shu Wui, I will give you the token to enter the Tower of Skysplit and allow you to enter the 10th floor. If you can't defeat Shu Wui." At this point, the black-robed old man paused for a moment before he continued, "Then fuck off to wherever you came from and stop wasting my time." Swish. As soon as he finished speaking, the old man's figure flashed, and he merged into the void and vanished. Ningyu took a step forward, and the energy in his sea of consciousness surged out and converged on the surface of his body. Shu Wuyi's expression turned slightly cold when he saw the wild and violent Yuan power around Ningyu. Soon after, his body jerked and began to swell. Numerous pitch-black lightning energy continuously surged out. Void Thunder Fist. Void One Fist blasted out, and immediately, a whistling wind spread out, directly rushing towards Ningyu. Teish Kenpo. Narrowing his eyes, Ningyu took out the broken soul sword. Violent Yuan Qi wrapped around it, and he immediately sent out a shocking sword wave. After this shocking sword wave blasted out, it blasted into the void at an astonishing speed. Hiss. However, just as the Teish Kenpo was about to hit Shu Wuyi's fist, Shu Wuyi stopped in midair. The next moment, Nihility's fist turned into a palm and he grabbed at the void. Then, he grabbed a pitch-black thunderbolt in his hand and flung it at Teish Kenpo. Hiss. The thunderbolt collided with the Teish Kenpo, and a sizzling sound erupted. Then, the thunderbolt dissipated into the void. He's actually so strong. Seeing that Teish Kenpo had been easily broken by Shu Wuyi, Ningyu's expression turned ugly. He could not help but take a few steps back. Although the Teish Kenpo was not his strongest move at the moment, Shu Wuyi had easily broken it. This was something that Ning Yu had not expected. Phantom armor. With a thought, the phantom armor appeared, and Ning Yu's speed skyrocketed. The Yuan Qi in his sea of consciousness gathered on his palms, and he sent out several palm prints. The palm prints, which were almost solid, lined up in a row and instantly arrived in front of Xu Wuyi. Faced with these palm prints, Xu Wuyi clearly did not take them seriously. He flicked his finger, and a cold thunderbolt shot out. Then, it expanded and finally collided with the palm prints that Ning Yu had sent out. Swoosh! The moment the thunderbolt and the palm prints collided, Ning Yu's expression changed. This was because he saw that the palm prints that he had sent out had actually been swallowed by the thunderbolt. If this is all you've got, I'm sorry. After the attack, Xu Wuyi's body turned into a shadow, and he instantly appeared beside Ning Yu. Then, a fist gradually expanded in front of Ning Yu's eyes, and finally, it violently smashed into Ning Yu's chest. Underworld dominating palm. Naturally, Ning Yu would not sit and wait for death. In a split second, he wrapped his soul power around his palm, and in an instant, he sent out a palm print. The underworld dominating palm was the fourth palm of the netherworld samsara palm, and it was extremely powerful. Ning Yu had already advanced to the pinnacle of the Xiantian realm. Coupled with the Dark Overlord palm that was executed with his late-stage 4th-grade soul power, even a powerful martial artist like Xu Wuyi would have a change in expression the moment he saw the Dark Overlord palm. However, Xu Wuyi was a peerless genius after all. Although he was a little afraid, he did not retreat. His fist couldn't be avoided, and it collided with Ning Yu's underworld dominating palm. Pa! When the two collided, a low muffled sound was heard. Then, a terrifying shockwave spread out from the point of impact. 9 clear sword wave. In the next instant, Ning Yu mobilized the two cyclones' origin energy to wrap around the soul-breaking sword. Under Xu Wuyi's shocked gaze, the sword stabbed out. At this moment, Ning Yu displayed his strongest move. The Supreme 9 Clear Sword ART's fourth move, 9 Clear Sword Wave. Supreme 9 Clear Sword Art. In a hidden space, two old men were sitting on stone benches. If Ning Yu was here, he would have noticed that the black-robed old man was there. Looking at the crystal on the wall, the black-robed old man wondered, is Ning Yu from the Supreme 9 Purities Temple? Above the crystal, Xu Wuyi and Ning Yu's every move could be seen clearly. Even their voices could be heard. This Ning Yu is not simple. Xu Wuyi is not his opponent. As soon as the black-robed old man finished speaking, the other grey-robed old man said, he is indeed using the Supreme 9 Clear Sword Art. Moreover, it is the fourth move, 9 Clear Sword Wave. I have already increased Xu Wuyi's strength to the 9th level. If Ning Yu wants to defeat him, I'm afraid it will be very difficult, right? The black-robed old man frowned. Haha, Ning Yu's strength is not limited to this. Smiling faintly, the grey-robed old man said, you can give him the token to enter the tower. Who knows, he might bring us a pleasant surprise. The black-robed old man didn't quite believe the grey-robed old man's words. However, he didn't dare to refute him directly. After all, the grey-robed old man was the 10th level's challenger. He was also the tower's guardian. That's right, I don't know who absorbed all the energy in the medicinal liquid pool. Thinking for a moment, the black-robed old man said, in your opinion, could it be Ning Yu? You don't need to worry about this. Go to the 9th level now. When Ning Yu defeats Xu Wuyi, don't make things difficult for him. Just send him here. Waving his hand, the grey-robed old man said, it's been a long time since I've seen a cultivator with such powerful acquired talent. I also want to see if he's really someone from the Zenith 9 Purities Palace, if his, at this point, the grey-robed old man suddenly shut his mouth and slowly closed his eyes. Since the grey-robed old man had put it this way, the black-robed old man didn't ask anymore. His figure flashed, and he flew toward the 9th level of the tower. Chapter 180. Boom. On the 9th floor of the ivory tower, Ning Yu's face darkened. The Yuan Qi in the 6 cyclones in his sea of knowledge rushed out and floated around his body. Shua. Then, Ning Yu held the soul-breaking sword in his hand and quickly swung it. As Ning Yu brandished the breaking soul sword, The essence energy around him surged into the breaking soul sword in a berserk manner. 9 purities sword art. As soon as he shouted, a wave of sword energy suddenly formed, and then it gradually expanded in Xu Wuyi's eyes. Pa 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 pa. Then, 9 muffled sounds rang out and the sword wave split into 9. When it was 10 centimeters away from Xu Wuyi, it suddenly exploded. The powerful shockwave continued to spread in all directions. Xu Lei, faced with such a powerful sword wave explosion, Xu Wuyi's face changed and he quickly moved his fist. However, as soon as he raised his fist, he was struck in the chest by a piercingly cold shockwave, and his body was sent flying. Poochie. After spitting out a mouthful of blood, Xu Wuyi struggled to stand up. Ningyu, you are very strong. I look forward to the next time we fight. As soon as he said this, Xu Wuyi's body gradually became illusory. In the end, he directly disappeared. Shua. The moment Xu Wuyi's body disappeared, the surrounding space was torn apart and the black-robed elder appeared in front of Ningyu. What? You defeated Xu Wuyi? Standing in front of Ningyu and looking at the blood on the ground, the black-robed elder's eyes widened and his face was full of disbelief. The strength of Xu Wuyi on the 9th floor of the Ivory Tower is equivalent to at least 2 peak true martial realm martial artists. You actually defeated him? The black-robed elder knew very well that although Xu Wuyi was not at his peak, his strength was not to be underestimated. At the very least, it was impossible for 2 peak true martial realm martial artists to defeat Xu Wuyi. Moreover, Ningyu's condition was clearly very good. He did not look like he had just fought a big battle. Could it be that Ningyu's strength was really as the grey-robed elder said? When he thought up to this point, the black-robed old man said in a low voice, "Very good. So it turns out that you've been concealing your strength. You defeated Xu Wuyi without anyone noticing." Xiu. Saying this, the black-robed elder took out a black token and threw it to Ningyu. Catching the black token, Ningyu frowned and said, "Senior, when we arrive at Skysplit Tower, can I enter as long as I hand over this token?" "That's right. When the tower opens, there will be someone guarding the entrance. If you hand over the token, they will let you in," the black-robed elder said lightly. Then, the black-robed elder once again used his perception to search Ningyu's body, hoping to find some clues. But unfortunately, 10 minutes later, the black-robed elder withdrew his perception because he did not find anything suspicious on Ningyu's body. Moreover, Ningyu's current condition was very good. He was full of energy. Even if another Xu Wuyi came, he might still be able to defeat him. What a freak! The black-robed elder thought. If Ningyu knew what the black-robed elder was thinking, he would definitely be speechless. Defeating Xu Wuyi had cost him 10 cyclones origin chi. In other words, there were only 2 cyclones left in his knowledge sea that had sufficient origin chi. The rest had all been used up. Kai Kai. The next moment, the black-robed elder grasped at the void and a vortex slowly appeared. Go in. Inside is the 10th floor of the tower. The black-robed elder pointed at the vortex. Senior, the 10th floor of the tower. Ouch. Seeing the vortex, Ningyu frowned slightly. Just as he was about to ask a question, he felt a force on his butt and fell directly into the vortex. Why do you talk so much nonsense? I told you to go in, so go in. How many people want to enter the 10th floor of the tower but can't? The black-robed elder curled his lips and withdrew his right foot. Then, his figure flashed and he disappeared. Buzz. On the 10th floor of the tower, the space squirmed and a crack appeared. Swoosh. Immediately after, a figure flew out from the crack and fell to the ground, falling face first into the mud. Phut, what bad luck. Don't let me meet you, or else I'll make you. Climbing up from the ground, Ningyu patted the dust off his body. Before he could finish speaking, he saw a grey-robed elder strangely appear in front of him. After seeing the grey-robed elder, Ningyu forcibly stopped speaking and asked hesitantly, "May I ask who you are, senior?" From the grey-robed elder, Ningyu did not feel even the slightest fluctuation of yuan qi. However, Ningyu did not think that the grey-robed elder was someone without martial arts cultivation. After all, even the black-robed cultivator on the 9th floor of the tower might not be able to appear in front of him silently. Haha, I am the examiner of this floor. The grey-robed elder smiled slightly and said, Who did you say you didn't want to meet? Ningyu scratched his head awkwardly and said, It's just a joke, a joke. Since the grey-robed elder was the examiner of this floor, he might know the black-robed elder. Ningyu was not stupid. He would not speak ill of someone else's friend in someone else's territory. Well, actually, you have already passed the test of this floor. The grey-robed elder waved his hand and closed the crack in midair. Then he said, Since you can defeat nothingness on the 9th floor of the ivory tower, then the test of this floor will not be difficult for you at all. Don't mention it. The assessment on the 10th floor of the ivory tower could not be considered simple, as one had to defeat a martial artist at the peak of the true martial realm. With Ningyu's performance on the 9th floor of the ivory tower, it would not be difficult to pass the test of this floor. Any martial artist who has passed the 10th floor of the ivory tower can cultivate in the ivory space for a day, the grey-robed elder said. The ivory space? What is that place? Ningyu asked doubtfully. With a smile, the grey-robed elder said, The ivory space is a time space. The passage of time inside is extremely slow. Let me put it this way. 1 month in the outside world is 1 day inside. Swish. Hearing this, Ningyu was shocked. A space like this that could reduce the passage of time was very precious. If one was not a direct disciple of a sect, it was basically impossible to enter it to cultivate. He had never met the grey-robed elder before. Logically speaking, the grey-robed elder would not leave such a precious opportunity for him. Perhaps he had seen through Ningyu's doubts. The grey-robed elder explained, You do not need to doubt this. The ivory tower was originally built to cultivate the experts of the Sky Demon region. When your cultivation reaches a certain level, you will naturally understand. Since you are the second martial artist to reach the top of the ivory tower, you can cultivate in the ivory space for a day. The second one? The first one was nothingness, right? Ningyu asked. Nodding, the grey-robed elder said, Nothingness is a peerless genius. He did reach the 10th floor. It seems that the rumors outside are not all true, Ningyu mumbled. According to the rumors outside, since the ivory tower was built, only one martial artist had reached the 9th floor, and that was nothingness. Now it seemed that nothingness had also reached the 10th floor. Chapter 181. Why? You don't want to enter the ivory space to train? Seeing Ningyu's expression, the elder asked, If you don't want to enter the ivory space, I can send you away now. No, 1 day in the ivory space is equivalent to a month's time. How could I not want to go in and train? Ningyu hurriedly said, I was just wondering if the yuan energy in the ivory space is much denser than the outside world. He, you will know once you enter. With a smile, the elder stomped his feet on the ground, causing it to cave in. Then, a huge stone door slowly rose from the sunken ground and finally appeared in front of Ningyu. Looking at the stone door that was taller than a person, Ningyu was a little dumbfounded. Could this stone door lead to the ivory space? That's right. This stone door leads to the ivory space. The elder pointed at the stone door and said, Go in, the stone door will naturally eject you after a day. Creak. Then, the stone door slowly opened as if someone was pushing it with their hands. After the stone door opened, Ningyu hesitated for a moment, then gritted his teeth and dashed in. Bang! Just as Ningyu entered, the stone door suddenly closed. There is indeed a trace of an old friend's aura on him. As for whether he is her son, I still need to observe. After Ningyu entered the ivory space, the elder sat down cross-legged in front of the stone door and closed his eyes. His senses quietly left the ivory tower. Swoosh! How lively, there are actually 4 to 5 Yuan Dan stage warriors. Sensing the several powerful auras on the square, the corners of the grey-clothed old man's mouth rose unnaturally. If we let them know that Ningyu didn't make it to the 8th floor but the 10th floor, I'm afraid some hidden old monsters won't sit idly by, right? Every time a warrior entered the first 8 levels of the ivory tower, that level would flash a few times, and even the 8th level would always be lit. However, even if a martial artist entered the 9th and 10th floors of the ivory tower, it would not flicker. Hence, The numerous martial artists in the plaza only thought that Ningyu made it to the 8th level. They did not know that Ningyu was currently at the 10th level. It seems that they are all here for Ningyu. Fine, when the time comes, I will let Ningyu choose for himself. Sighing softly, the grey-robed elder withdrew his perception and slowly closed his eyes. Hiss. At the same time, in the ivory space, Ningyu opened his mouth slightly and could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. Before entering the ivory space, he had guessed that the density of primordial chi inside would be very high, but he had not expected it to be this high. It was so high that the gaseous vital energy had turned into liquid vital energy. Absorb. Ningyu was not an indecisive person. He immediately sat down with his legs crossed and began to use the spirit transformation technique to absorb the essence chi crazily. When he was fighting with Shu Wui, Ningyu had used up the vital energy in 10 cyclones. Now, he could use this opportunity to replenish them completely. Compared to the gaseous vital energy, the liquid vital energy was obviously easier to absorb. In just one day, Ningyu had filled up the vital energy in the cyclones. Moreover, he had also changed the vital energy in the remaining 2 cyclones into liquid vital energy. There are still 29 days left. I will first stabilize my cultivation, then I will try to divide the cyclones again. Because he had advanced to the Xiantian full realm in a hurry, Ningyu had not had the time to stabilize his cultivation. Now was a good opportunity, and he could not miss it. Ningyu knew that he could only continue to divide the cyclones when his cultivation had stabilized at the Xiantian full realm. Otherwise, there was no chance of success. Time flew. In the blink of an eye, Ningyu had stayed in the ivory space for 15 days. On the 16th day, Ningyu opened his eyes and felt the changes in his sea of consciousness. He slowly exhaled a mouthful of turbid qi. Not bad. My cultivation has completely stabilized at the Xiantian full realm. Nodding his head in satisfaction, Ningyu was not in a hurry to divide the cyclones. Instead, he took out the phantom armor. The phantom armor was an earth middle level magic treasure. Ning Hai had once said that if he wanted to upgrade the phantom armor to the earth upper level, he would need at least 1 million high-grade yuan crystals. As for the liquid yuan qi in this space, not to mention 1 million high-grade yuan crystals, even if it was 10 million high-grade yuan crystals, it would still be impossible to have so much yuan qi. Buzz. After taking out the phantom armor, Ningyu exerted his soul force and controlled the phantom armor to burst out with a suction force, sucking the surrounding liquid vital energy into the armor. Crack. With the continuous absorption of the liquid vital energy, the phantom armor made a cracking sound. One day later, the phantom armor seemed to be growing bigger. The aura on it had increased to the peak of the earth middle level. 3 days later, the phantom armor had completely grown bigger. Its aura had reached the peak of the earth middle level, and was advancing towards the earth upper level. Catcher. On the 5th day, the phantom armor shattered with a loud bang, and a small armor flew out from it. And this small armor's aura had reached the earth upper level. The speed of the earth middle level phantom armor was comparable to a peak middle stage true martial realm martial artist. The speed of the earth upper level phantom armor was comparable to a peak late stage true martial realm martial artist. After the phantom armor was upgraded to the earth upper level, Ningyu put it away. After all, he could only stay in the ivory space for 10 days. He could not waste time on upgrading the phantom armor. Try to divide the cyclones. This was the most important thing. Shio. At this moment, a cold light suddenly burst out of Ningyu's mind and moved back and forth in the ivory space. Ningyu had the urge to curse when he saw the cold light that suddenly shot out. Because the cold light was not something else, but a semicircular blue pendant. What the F***CK? Why is it you again? This time, Ningyu did not let the blue pendant absorb the liquid spiritual chi here. Instead, he put on the phantom armor and chased after the pendant, trying to catch it. Swish. However, the pendant was obviously faster than Ningyu. Even though Ningyu had used all his strength, he still could not catch up with the pendant. Voila. While escaping, the pendant burst out a strong suction force, crazily absorbing the liquid spiritual chi around it. Damn it. You can't do this. Ningyu could not help cursing, and his face was full of black lines. The ivory space was different from the pool on the 9th floor. There was not much energy in the pool on the 9th floor. As long as he refused to admit it, the black-robed old man would not find any clues. But it was different here. This was the ivory space. Ningyu could imagine that if the pendant absorbed all the liquid spiritual qi in the space, the grey-robed old man would definitely skin him alive when he left. However, Ningyu had no way to stop the pendant. He could only watch it absorb the liquid spiritual qi in the space. On the first day, the liquid spiritual qi in the ivory space was reduced by 1/20th. On the second day, it was still reduced by the same amount. In the following days, the liquid spiritual qi in the ivory space was decreasing at a steady rate. Crack, 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 crack. Chapter 182. The pendant's actions caused Ningyu to be somewhat dumbfounded. Previously, after the pendant had absorbed the energy in the pool, it had directly entered his sea of consciousness and hibernated in the qi whirlpool. Why was it hovering above his head this time? Moreover, there were 4 cracking sounds coming from the pendant just now. In addition to the 2 cracking sounds that came from the pool on the 9th level, there were a total of 6 sounds. Did these 6 sounds signify something? However, just as Ningyu was frowning in thought, a loud laughter came from the pendant. Ha ha ha. I, the sword devil, have finally reached the end. Kid, in order to repay you for helping me break the 6 light array, I will devour you as well. After the loud laughter, a red cold light shot out from the pendant and attacked Ningyu at an extremely shocking speed. A red flying sword? Ningyu's eyes were extremely sharp. The moment the cold light shot out, he discovered its true form. It was a red flying sword the size of a palm, soul-breaking sword. Although he discovered that the cold light was a red flying sword, Ningyu did not dare to be careless. He wrapped his yuan qi around the soul-breaking sword and slashed it down from the sky. Ding! Following that, the 2 flying swords slashed together and exploded with a crisp sound. After the attack, the red flying sword quickly retreated. You are actually so strong. The sword devil's voice rang in Ningyu's ears, extremely shocked. Who are you? Holding the soul-breaking sword, Ningyu asked coldly. Through the previous exchange, Ningyu had already determined that the red flying sword could not defeat him. At most, their strength was on par. Since that was the case, there was nothing for Ningyu to be afraid of. He said in a low voice, "Why are you in the pendant? What is that hoodlum array you speak of? Could it be that you are a hoodlum? I'm going to faint." As soon as Ningyu's voice fell, the red flying sword shook and transformed into a young man wearing a red shirt. Kid, that's a 6 light array, not a rogue array. The red-robed man rolled his eyes and said, I've been trapped in the pendant for many years. They used the 7-star array to suppress my body and the 6-star array to suppress my spiritual body. If it weren't for your heaven-defying luck, I wouldn't have been able to break the 6-star array. Spirit body. Ningyu frowned. Then, his eyes narrowed as he pointed at the red-robed man. You're the sword spirit. Haha, you are quite smart. That's right, I am the sword spirit of the red demon sword, the red-clothed man said with a smile. What do you mean by the 7-star array? Could it be that your true form, the red demon sword, is trapped in the 7-star formation? Ningyu asked. At the mention of the 7-star array, the red-clothed man's expression turned ugly, and he said fiercely, Don't let me run into that old bald donkey, or I'll teach him a lesson. Whoosh. At this moment, Ningyu, who was wearing the phantom armor and had his primordial qi wrapped around his feet, instantly arrived beside the pendant. Before the red-clothed man could react, he grabbed the pendant in his hand and threw it into his storage ring. The sudden change caused the red-clothed man's mouth to open slightly. He was somewhat dumbfounded. Very quickly, he came to his senses and shouted, Kid, if you know what's good for you, hurry up and return the pendant to me. Otherwise, I'll cut you into 8 pieces. Actually, it was no wonder that the red-clothed man had gone berserk. After all, his true form was still in the pendant. If the pendant fell into Ningyu's hands, wouldn't that mean that he would be restricted by Ningyu? With this thought, the red-clothed man turned into a red flying sword again and charged straight at Ningyu. You are not stronger than me. With a cold snort, Ningyu waved the absolute soul sword and slashed out several sky-piercing sword waves. All of them slashed at the red flying sword. Facing such a fierce attack from Ningyu, the red flying sword also slashed out several red sword rays to meet the sword waves. Puff! The sword rays and the sword waves collided and instantly disappeared. Damn it! Kid, tell me, what will it take for you to return the pendant to me? After the attack, the red flying sword shook its body and turned back into the red-clothed man. It said fiercely. The red-clothed man knew that his strength and Ningyu's were about the same. No one could defeat the other. Now that his true form was in Ningyu's hands, if Ningyu destroyed his true form, he would also disappear from this world. After all, he had not reached the realm of unity of spirit and sword. If his true form was destroyed, he would not live for long. It seems that you have not reached unity of spirit and sword. Seeing that the red-clothed man was so nervous, Ningyu smiled and said, I will not return the pendant to you because it belongs to me. Seeing that the red-clothed man was about to go berserk, Ningyu changed the topic and continued, if you want me to return your true form to you, it is not impossible. However, the 7 stars killing array is very difficult to break. I am willing but not capable. That is easy. There is still a lot of energy in the pendant. As long as it absorbs 3 times the liquid yuan qi in this space, you will be able to break the 7 stars killing array, the red-clothed man said in a low voice. What? More than 3 times the liquid yuan qi? Ningyu had the urge to curse. The red-clothed man had absorbed half of the liquid yuan qi in the ivory space, and now he said that he needed 3 times the liquid yuan qi. Why didn't he just rob him? Moreover, 3 times the liquid yuan qi in this space could not be broken into unless he went to some big family or sect's treasure room. However, it was not so easy to break into the treasure room of a big family or a big family. That is nothing. I know some places where the yuan qi is very rich. The red-clothed man said disapprovingly, as long as you give me the pendant, I will naturally have a way to get the remaining yuan qi. Ningyu would definitely not give the pendant to the red-clothed man. Not to mention that the pendant was given to him by his father, Ningyu would not give the pendant to the red-clothed man just because of the red devil in the 7 stars killing array. A flying sword that could give birth to a spiritual body was at least a king-rank flying sword. Ningyu rolled his eyes and said, how about this, you follow me, and I will help you break the 7 stars killing array. Follow you? The red-clothed man said disdainfully, who do you think you are to make me, the red devil, follow you? Since you are not willing, forget it. Shrugging his shoulders, Ningyu said faintly, I'll leave the ivory space in 1 day. To tell you the truth, there's a powerful old man outside the ivory space. If he sees you, TSK, I don't dare to imagine it. The scene will definitely be very bloody. Ningyu felt a strong killing intent from the red-clothed man. In other words, he had killed a lot of warriors. If the old man in grey saw the red-clothed man, he would definitely capture him. Kid, don't use the old man's name to pressure me. The red-clothed man's heart shivered, but he still said fiercely. Believe it or not, I have no enmity with you, so I have no reason to lie to you. Sitting down cross-legged, Ningyu said. Although he was sitting down, Ningyu released his soul power, paying attention to the red-clothed man's movements. If the red-clothed man dared to make a move, he would attack immediately. Chapter 183. Damn it. Damn it. Seeing Ningyu sit down, the man in red suddenly became angry. His whole body exuded a biting cold aura, wanting to attack Ningyu. But thinking of Ningyu's powerful strength, the man in red took a deep breath and said, Boy, I can follow you, but you have to tell me, when can you help me break the Big Dipper array? In the man in red's view, it was not impossible to follow Ningyu, but Ningyu had to agree to help him break the Big Dipper array. You also said that breaking the Big Dipper array requires a lot of energy. Slightly frowning, Ningyu said, with my current strength and state, it will be difficult to find enough energy to help you break the Big Dipper array. You don't have to worry about this. Wait until we leave this damn place, I will tell you where to find energy. With that, the man in red's figure flashed, turning into a red afterimage, and directly attached himself to the soul-breaking sword. The man in red's action caused Ningyu's complexion to slightly change, and he was a little shocked. The soul-breaking sword was a devouring flying sword, and the man in red could actually attach himself to the sword. He really had some skill. Swoosh! Putting away the soul-breaking sword, Ningyu sat cross-legged again, and slowly operated the spirit transformation art. After the man in red's disturbance, there was only 1 day left in the 1-month time limit. In 1 day, Ningyu naturally could not complete the cyclone division, so he was very helpless. He could only operate the spirit transformation art to absorb the liquid yuan qi, and strive to slightly expand the cyclone. Now, the yuan qi that Ningyu could hold in each cyclone was comparable to that of a peak middle stage true martial realm martial artist. But no one would complain that their cyclone could hold more yuan qi. After all, the bigger the cyclone, the more yuan qi it could hold. When fighting against an enemy, a little less yuan qi could lead to defeat. Hua! A day passed in the blink of an eye. When the 1-month time limit came, Ningyu only felt his vision go black, and his body seemed to be grabbed by a huge force and ruthlessly thrown out. Bang! On the 10th floor of the ivory tower, Ningyu was ejected from the stone door and fell to the ground. F***ck. Standing up from the ground, Ningyu really wanted to curse. The first time he came to the 10th floor of the ivory tower, he fell flat on his face. This time, if he wasn't prepared, he would definitely fall flat on his face too. Uncle could endure it, but Aunt could not. However, when Ningyu raised his head and saw the grey-robed elder in front of him, he forcefully swallowed the words that were on the tip of his tongue. If the uncle could endure it, so could the aunt. Still at the peak of the innate realm, the grey-clothed old man frowned slightly and asked, "It has been a month. Why do I feel that your strength has not increased by much?" Ningyu's current state was only slightly stronger than when he had first entered the ivory space, but not by much. At best, the essence energy in his spiritual sea had increased. With Ningyu's talent, it did not make sense that the capacity of his spiritual sea had only increased by a little after staying in the ivory space for a month. Previously, when Shu Wui stayed in the ivory space for a month, his strength had increased by at least 5 times. In the eyes of the grey-clothed old man, even if Ningyu's strength could not be increased by 5 times, it should at least be increased by 2 times, right? The reality was harsh. Ningyu's strength had only increased by half compared to when he had entered the ivory space. Senior, I practiced a kind of magic in the ivory space, so I was not in a hurry to increase my strength, Ningyu explained after hesitating for a moment. Judging from the grey-clothed old man's reaction, he should not know what had happened in the ivory space. Since he did not know, Ningyu did not intend to tell him. After all, there was only half of the liquid essence energy left in the ivory space. Good, it's good that you can think this way. Nodding, the grey-clothed old man said, when you were on the 9th floor of the ivory tower, you had already raised your cultivation to the peak of the Xiantian realm. In the ivory space, you were able to resist the urge to advance to the true martial realm. Not bad. Resist Maya *s. If I did not want to split the cyclones, I would have advanced to the true martial realm by now, Ningyu said in his heart. Now, Ningyu had 13 cyclones, and the maximum number of cyclones in the Xiantian realm was 16. He wanted to try to break through to 16 cyclones before advancing to the true martial realm. At the very least, he wanted to split the cyclones into 15. Before the Yuandan realm, the number of cyclones determined how strong one would be when advancing to the Yuandan realm. Although Shu Wui did not show the cyclones to Ningyu, Ningyu could basically confirm that Shu Wui had at least 10 cyclones, or even more. Otherwise, with the amount of yuan qi that Shu Wui could hold, it would be very difficult for him to compete with him. Since you are the second martial artist to enter the 10th floor of the ivory tower, I can promise you one thing. Just as Ningyu was letting his imagination run wild, the grey-clothed martial artist said, "Promise me one thing." Slightly stunned, Ningyu did not expect that entering the 10th floor of the ivory tower would have so many benefits, and for a moment, he was stunned. Originally, he thought that entering the ivory space to cultivate for a month was already very good. Who would have thought that the grey-clothed old man would promise him one thing? One had to know that the grey-clothed old man was a Yuandan realm martial artist, or even a Yin-Yang realm martial artist. Don't be in a hurry to say your request. Let me first tell you some of the situation outside the ivory tower. Waving his hand, the grey-clothed old man flicked his sleeves, and suddenly, a crystal was thrown into the air. The crystal was like a mirror, shrouding everyone in the square. Ningyu did not know what the grey-clothed old man meant, so he quietly looked at the crystal and did not say a word. Suddenly, the image on the crystal changed, and the scene on the high platform appeared. Who are these people? Looking at the people on the crystal, Ningyu frowned slightly. Apart from Yang Kuan, he did not know any of the other martial artists. Swoosh. However, very quickly, Ningyu's expression changed because he saw a familiar figure on the high platform. A figure that was extremely familiar to him, apart from Yang Kuan, Lu Wei. Back in the Pill Dragon Valley, Lu Wei did not hesitate to go against the martial artists of the corpse sect for his sake. This kindness was something that Ningyu would never forget. Why is she here? Frowning slightly, Ningyu was a little confused. Logically speaking, Lu Wei should be taking the examination at Danwu College. Why was she in Ivory City? Everyone on the high platform is an outstanding person in the Great Xia Kingdom. Pointing at the crystal, the grey-clothed old man said, and their purpose here is very clear. They want to recruit you into their faction. Recruit me into their faction? Slightly stunned, Ningyu said, just because I made it to the 10th floor of the ivory tower? To be precise, they only know that you made it to the 8th floor of the ivory tower. They do not know that you made it to the 10th floor. The grey-clothed old man explained, if they know that you made it to the 10th floor, some hidden old monsters will definitely rush here. Now you have two choices. First, leave the ivory tower and join one of their factions. Second, I'll send you away quietly. This way, there won't be a lot of unnecessary trouble. Chapter 184. Trouble. Ningyu was stunned when he heard the grey-robed elder's words. What kind of trouble will she be in? Actually, it's not that big of a problem. That little girl knows you, but the cultivators around her are all here for you. If you leave quietly, they will definitely capture the little girl and try to find clues from her, the grey-robed old man explained. This doesn't make sense. How did Lu Wei know that I'm in the ivory tower? Ningyu was puzzled. In the Ivory City, only two people knew his identity, Yang Yu and Yang Kuan. Yang Yu was in the ivory tower and naturally wouldn't reveal his identity. Could it be Yang Kuan? Ningyu's face darkened at the thought of this. His identity must not be known to more people, or the consequences would be unimaginable. After pondering for a moment, Ningyu pointed at Zhongjun Sr., who is the cultivator beside the middle-aged man. Him. He is the current head of the Zhong family in the capital and is at the primordial core realm, the grey-robed elder answered. TSS. Ningyu gasped when he heard this. He killed Zhong Wenyong in the Elixir Dragon Valley and killed Zhong Jin in a domineering manner. If the current head of the Zhong family saw him, he would definitely kill him immediately. At this moment, choosing to leave the ivory tower quietly was the best choice, and also the safest choice. However, when he saw the anxious Lu Wei on the crystal, Ningyu clenched his teeth and said, Senior, I choose the first option, but I will not join any faction. You will not join any faction? The grey-robed elder was a little shocked. After a while, he said, Don't regret it. There are people from the Sacred Institute of Danwu College outside. As long as you agree to them, you can enter the Sacred Institute to cultivate. In the Great Xia Kingdom, the Sacred Institute of Danwu College is one of the 3 sacred cultivation grounds. Senior, I need your help with something. Since he had chosen the first option, Ningyu would definitely not back down. However, he was not a fool and would not leave the ivory tower just like that. After pondering for a moment, Ningyu said, Please change my appearance and aura so that they won't be able to recognize my true appearance. If Ningyu were to go out with this appearance again, he probably wouldn't be able to live for long. At the very least, the head of the Zhong clan would be the first to make a move. Moreover, there was a wise saying that Ningyu would never forget. A genius that had not grown up was not a genius. All right, I'll agree to this. Nodding his head, the grey-clothed old man swung his sleeve. Immediately, a bag of brown powder flew out and landed on Ningyu's body. After the brown powder landed on Ningyu's body, it wrapped around his skin and slowly entered his body. Buzz. A moment later, Ningyu's aura underwent a tremendous change. Early stage of true martial realm. Now, Ningyu's aura had reached the early stage of the true martial realm. In the eyes of the martial artists outside, your current cultivation is at the early stage of the true martial realm. Feeling Ningyu's aura, the grey-clothed old man was somewhat satisfied and said, "The aura-changing powder can maintain your aura for 6 hours, so you only have 6 hours. After 6 hours, your aura will return to the peak of the Xiantian realm." "Thank you, senior," Ningyu said hurriedly. Waving his hand, the grey-clothed old man continued, "Don't thank me yet. Although your aura has changed, your appearance hasn't. Next, let me change your appearance." At the same time, outside the ivory tower, on the high platform, many martial artists were waiting anxiously. Especially the head of the Zhong clan, Zhong Jun, who had an ugly expression and said coldly, "It's been so long, why hasn't he come out from the 8th floor of the ivory tower yet?" Rolling his eyes, drunken cloud manners Xiao Chang said indifferently, "He can't even wait this long. I advise you to go home early. Isn't it good for him to stay longer in the 8th floor of the ivory tower? Maybe he can make it to the 9th floor. You." Zhong Jun's expression turned cold and said gloomily, "No matter how many floors he passes, he will definitely not join the drunken cloud manor." Xiao Chang shrugged and did not deny it. In the beginning, Xiao Chang came brimming with confidence. But when he saw the Danwu Academy's Fang Yuanzi and the imperial family's Mu Sanming, he faintly had the thought of giving up on recruiting genius martial artists from the ivory tower. He knew that his chances of competing with Danwu College and the imperial family for geniuses were slim. After all, Danwu College and the imperial family were the two overlords of the Da Xia kingdom. "Fang Yuanzi, do you think this genius martial artist will make it to the 9th floor?" As time passed, Mu Sanming's expression became a little serious and he could not help but ask, "Third brother Mu, what's the hurry?" Sitting on the chair, Fang Yuanzi's eyes were still closed. He said calmly, "No matter which level this genius martial artist reaches, he is still a member of the Sacred Institute. He has nothing to do with you. So, you should give up on this idea. Don't be complacent. We are determined to win this time," Mu Sanming said in a low voice. Crash. At this moment, a gap suddenly appeared on the 6th floor of the ivory tower, and then a figure was ejected out. "Look, someone came out from the 6th floor of the ivory tower. Who is it?" "Yang Yu. It's Yang Yu. I didn't expect it to be him. Now it seems that one of the martial artists on the 8th floor of the ivory tower has been eliminated. I wonder if it will be Zhong Hu. It's hard to say. Zhong Hu is stronger than Yang Yu. If Yang Yu can pass the 6th floor, maybe he can pass the 8th floor." Seeing a martial artist ejected from the ivory tower, Fang Yuanzi and the others changed their expressions and stood up from their chairs at the same time. However, when they saw that the cultivator had been ejected from the 6th floor, they all looked disappointed and sat back in their chairs. However, Yang Kuan was different from them. The moment Yang Yu was ejected, he flashed and came to Yang Yu's side. Although it was confirmed that the martial artist on the 8th floor of the ivory tower was not Yang Yu, Yang Kuan was not disappointed at all. Instead, he was very happy. For him, it was the best result that Yang Yu could come out alive. "Father, I didn't expect." Yang Yu took a step forward and was about to speak, but he was interrupted by Yang Kuan. "Now is not the time to talk. Talk to me when we go back," Yang Kuan said in a low voice. Hearing this, Yang Yu looked at the high platform. He was really surprised by what he saw. Especially when he felt the strong aura coming from the high platform, he immediately shut his mouth and followed Yang Kuan in silence. Because all the martial artists on the high platform, except for the young woman, were more powerful than him. "It's not Ningyu." Seeing Yang Yu, Lu Wei looked disappointed. However, she did not say it out loud this time. Instead, she thought to herself, could the martial artist on the 8th floor really be Ningyu? Whoosh. However, not long after Yang Yu was ejected, another figure flew out from the ivory tower. This time, many of the martial artists on the high platform stood up in unison and stared at the martial artist who had flown out. This was because this martial artist had flown out from the 8th floor of the ivory tower. Shamelessly ask for monthly votes. 5 monthly votes and 1 chapter. How many monthly votes do you have? Also, if you haven't joined the group, please join the group. The group number is at the top of the book review section. I hope you guys can come out and comment. The book review section is too quiet. Chapter 185. Someone came out of the ivory tower again, and it's from the 8th floor. What? The 8th floor of the ivory tower? That's right, it's indeed the 8th floor of the ivory tower. He doesn't look like Jong-Hoo. Not Jong-Hoo? Who is it? The instant the figure shot out, the square burst into exclamations of surprise. The focus of everyone's discussion was the true identity of this martial artist. After all, no one had seen this martial artist before. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. On the high platform, Fang Yuanzi and the others did not care about this martial artist's true identity. The moment he flew out, they rushed out and surrounded him. May I know why you are blocking my way? Ning Yu had already guessed that this would happen, so he was not too surprised. Instead, he said in a deep voice, if there's nothing else, I'm leaving. Haha, how should I address you, my young friend? Fang Yuanzi smiled and said, let me introduce myself first. I'm from the Sacred Institute of Danwu College. I'm from Drunken Cloud Villa, Xiaochang said. I'm from the Zhong family in the capital. Zhong Jun said. My young friend, I'm from the royal family. This is the third prince, Mu Sanming said. Dan Yu. Ning Yu said after a moment of silence. Hiss. In the distance, Lu Wei trembled unnaturally when she heard Ning Yu's words. Only now did she confirm that the martial artist who had reached the 8th floor was Ning Yu. This was because Ning Yu had said the name Dan Yu the first time he went to Snow Pavilion. At that time, only he and Elder Mo remembered it. No one else knew. It's really him. Lu Wei murmured. Her body trembled uncontrollably because of her excitement. Dan Yu, my young friend, this is not the place to talk. Why don't we go to the governor's mansion and talk? Mu Sanming said. What's so good about the governor's mansion? Why don't you come with me to Danwu College? Fang Yuanzi went straight to the point and said, I promise you, as long as you follow me to Danwu College, I can make the decision to let you join the Sacred Institute. Hiss. Fang Yuanzi's words were like a sudden clap of thunder in the middle of the day, giving everyone a huge shock. Although they knew very well that martial artists who made it to the 8th level could join the Sacred Institute unconditionally, they were still very shocked to hear this from Fang Yuanzi. In the sacred courtyard of Danwu College, every martial artist that came out from there had at least reached the peak of the true martial realm, and there were even many martial artists who had advanced to the Yuandan realm. Hearing Fang Yuanzi's words, Mu Sanming could no longer sit still. He hurriedly said, young friend Dan Yu, as long as you join the imperial family, we will definitely nurture you as the first core disciple. You can even enter the Frost Manor to cultivate at will. You can enter the Frozen Mansion to cultivate at will. Mu Sanming's promise once again shocked everyone in the square. In the Great Xia Kingdom, there were 3 sacred cultivation grounds. The first was the Sacred Institute of Danwu College, and the second was the royal family's ice mansion. As for the third, it was the Corpse Sect's Ghost Talent Cave. These 3 sacred cultivation grounds had produced more than half of the Great Xia Kingdom's geniuses. Moreover, the Frost Manor was previously only open to the imperial family. Even if a prince wanted to enter the Frost Manor to cultivate, he had to personally report and pass the examination before he could enter. Moreover, there was a time limit. Now that Mu Sanming had actually promised Dan Yu that he could enter the Frost Manor to cultivate at will, this was a rare opportunity. Dan Yu, although our Drunken Cloud Manor is not as good as the Imperial Family and Danwu College, as long as you join us, I promise you that I can even nurture you to become the next Manor Lord. Although he knew the chances were slim, Xiao Chang still wanted to fight for it. Dan Yu, I don't want to say anything unnecessary. I only have one thing to say. Join the Zhong family in the capital, and you will have the chance to become the next Manor Lord, Zhong Jun said in a low voice. Hearing this, everyone in the square was already numb. If they were shocked by the olive branch extended by Danwu College and the imperial family at the beginning, then Xiaochang and Zhongjun's promise completely drove them crazy. So far, all the top forces in the Great Xia Kingdom, except for the Snow Domain Pavilion and a few hidden forces, had all sent invitations to Dan Yu. If life was like this, he could die without regret. Not the one who killed Master Leng. At the edge of the square, the man in white quietly took out a crystal ball and looked at it, then murmured, "The aura of the early stage of the true martial realm. It seems that the one who killed Master Leng is someone else." The man in white knew that the one who killed Master Leng was at the late stage of the Xiantian realm, but the martial artist in front of him was at the early stage of the true martial realm, and did not seem to have just advanced to the early stage of the true martial realm. However, the man in white was a little confused. Didn't they say that only Xiantian realm martial artists could enter the ivory tower? Why was the martial artist in front of him at the early stage of the true martial realm? Could it be that the ivory tower has a treasure that can slow down the passage of time? Thinking of this, the man in white's heart shuddered, and his face revealed an ecstatic expression. He said in a low voice, "I must tell the hall master this news. A treasure that can slow down the passage of time is too important to the hall master." As he spoke, the man in white's figure flashed, and he quietly left the square. On the high platform, the martial artist who came with Lu Wei looked a little anxious. He said, "Eldest miss, should we try to recruit this Dan Yu? Uncle Wen, now that the Snow Domain Pavilion is in danger, how can we recruit Dan Yu?" Suppressing the joy in her heart, Lu Wei said solemnly, "Our goal this time is very clear: find Ningyu, and find a way to contact his master. Eldest miss, Dan Yu is so talented, maybe his master is even more powerful than Ningyu's master." The middle-aged man who was called Uncle Wen obviously did not want to give up. He said, "Besides, we just came back from Tianxian City, and we didn't see Ningyu there. Why don't we try to recruit Dan Yu?" Lu Wei fell silent. After thinking for a moment, she nodded and said, "All right, I'll try." Swoosh. Then, Lu Wei's figure flashed, and she landed next to Ningyu. "Little girl from the Snow Domain Pavilion, you also want to recruit Dan Yu?" Seeing Lu Wei, Fang Yuanzi and the others were slightly startled. "Seniors, my father just sent me a message, asking me to give it a try," Lu Wei said as she cupped her fists at the crowd. "Hee, a message?" At this moment, the corner of Zhongjun's mouth curled up, and he smiled evilly. "Your father must be busy refining elixirs. Why would he send you a message? In my opinion, you should hurry back to the capital. You might be able to see your mother for the last time." "You." Lu Wei's expression was a little ugly, but she was very clear that she was the weakest here, and she must not get angry. Taking a deep breath, Lu Wei said to Ningyu, "I don't have many promises, but you should know that the Snow Domain Pavilion is the largest medicinal herb store in the Xia Kingdom, and there are many medicinal herbs in it. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.